The Book of Chronicles. Adam, Sheth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalaleel, Jared, Henoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. The sons of Japheth: Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshech, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer: Ashkenaz, Riphath, and Togarmah. And the sons of Javan: Elisha, Tarshish, Kittim, and Dodanim. The sons of Ham: Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. And the sons of Cush: Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Raamah, and Sabteka. And the sons of Raamah: Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush gendered Nimrod, he began to be mighty upon the land. And Mizraim gendered Ludim, Anamim, Lahabim, and Naphtuhim, Pathrusim, and Casluhim, of whom came the Philistines, and Caphtharim. And Canaan gendered Zidon his firstborn, and Heth, the Jebusite also, and the Amorite, Girgashite, Hivite, Arkite, Sinite, Arvadite, Zemarite, and the Hamathite. The sons of Shem: Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, Aram, Uz, Hul, Gether, Meshech. And Arphaxad gendered Shelah, and Shelah gendered Eber. And to Eber were born 2 sons, the name of the one was Peleg, because in his days the land was divided, and his brother's name was Joktan. And Joktan gendered Almodad, Shalef, Hazarmaveth, and Jerah, Hadoram also, and Uzal, Deklah, Ebal, Abimael, Sheba, Ophir, Havilah, and Jobab. All these were the sons of Joktan. Shem, Arphaxad, Shelah, Eber, Peleg, Ru, Serug, Nahor, Terah, Abram, the same as Abraham. The sons of Abraham: Isaac, and Ishmael. These are their generations: the firstborn of Ishmael, Neviot, then Kedar, Adbeel, Mibsam, Mishma, Dumah, Massa, Hadad, Tema, Jetur, Nephish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael. Now the sons of Keturah, Abraham's concubine, she gendered Zimran, and Jikshan, Madon, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. And the sons of Jikshan: Sheba, and Dedan. And the sons of Midian: Ephah, Epher, Henoch, Abida, and Eldaah. All these are the sons of Keturah. And Abraham gendered Isaac. The sons of Isaac: Esau and Israel. The sons of Esau: Eliphaz, Ruel, Jeush, Halam, and Korah. The sons of Eliphaz: Teman, Omar, Zephi, Gatam, Kenaz, Timnah, and Amalek. The sons of Ruel: Nahath, Zerah, Shammah, and Mizah. And the sons of Seir: Lotan, Shobal, Zibeon, Anna, Disan, Ezer, and Dishan. And the sons of Lotan: Hori, Homam, and Timnah was Lotan's sister. The sons of Shobal: Alian, Manahath, Ebal, Shephi, and Onam. And the sons of Zibeon: Aiah, and Anna. The sons of Anna: Disan. And the sons of Disan: Amram, Eshban, Ithran, and Sharon. The sons of Ezer: Bilhan, Zavan, and Jachin. The sons of Dishan: Uz, and Aaron. Now these are the kings that reigned in the land of Edom before any king reigned over the children of Israel: Bela the son of Beor, and the name of his city was Dinhaba. And when Bela was dead, Jobab the son of Zerah of Bozrah reigned in his place. And when Jobab was dead, Husham of the land of the Temanites reigned in his place. And when Husham was dead, Hadad the son of Bedad, which struck Midian in the field of Moab, reigned in his place, and the name of his city was Avith. And when Hadad was dead, Samlah of Masrekah reigned in his place. And when Samlah was dead, Shaul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his place. And when Shaul was dead, Balanan the son of Achbor reigned in his place. And when Balanan was dead, Hadad reigned in his place, and the name of his city was Pai, and his wife's name was Mehetabel, the daughter of Matred, the daughter of Mezahab. Hadad died also. And the chiefs of Edom were: Chief Timnah, Chief Eliah, Chief Jetheth, Chief Aholibamah, Chief Elah, Chief Pinon, Chief Kenaz, Chief Teman, Chief Mibzar, Chief Magdiel, Chief Iram. These are the chiefs of Edom. These are the sons of Israel: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan, Joseph, Benjamin, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. The sons of Judah: Onan, and Shelah, which 3 were born to him of the daughter of Shua the Canaanitess. And the firstborn of Judah, was bad in the sight of Yhwh, and he killed him. And Tamar his daughter-in-law, gendered him Pharez and Zerah. All the sons of Judah were 5. The sons of Pharez: Hezron, and Hamul. And the sons of Zerah: Zimri, Ethan, Haman, Calcol, and Dara, 5 of them in all. And the sons of Carmi, Ashar, Achan, the troubler of Israel, who transgressed in the thing devoted to destruction. And the sons of Ethan, Azariah. The sons also of Hezron, that were born to him, Jerahmeel, Ram, and Chelabai. And Ram gendered Amminadab, and Amminadab gendered Nashon, prince of the children of Judah, and Nashon gendered Salma, and Salma gendered Boaz, and Boaz gendered Obed, and Obed gendered Jesse, and Jesse gendered his firstborn Eliab, and Abinadab the second, and Shimea the third, Nethaneel the fourth, Radai the fifth, Ozam the sixth, David the seventh, whose sisters were Zeruiah, and Abigail. And the sons of Zeruiah, Abishai, Joab, and Asahel, 3. And Abigail gendered Amasa, and the father of Amasa was Cheter the Ishmaelite. And Caleb the son of Hezron gendered children of Azabah his woman, and of Jerioth, her sons are these, Jesher, Shobab, and Arden. And when Azabah was dead, Caleb took to him Ephrath that gendered him her. And her gendered Uri, and Uri gendered Bezaleel. And afterward Hezron went in to the daughter of Machir the father of Gilead, whom he married when he was 60 years old, and she gendered him Segub. And Segub gendered Yair, who had 23 cities in the land of Gilead. And he took Geshur, and Aram, with the towns of Yair, from them, with Kenath, and its towns, even 60 cities. All these belonged to the sons of Machir the father of Gilead. And after that Hezron was dead in Caleb-Ephrata, then Abiah Hezron's woman gendered him Asher the father of Tekoa. And the sons of Jerahmeel the firstborn of Hezron were, Ram the firstborn, and Bunah, Oren, Ozam, and Ahijah. Jerahmeel had also another woman, whose name was Adarah, she was the mother of Onam. And the sons of Ram the firstborn of Jerahmeel were, Maz, Jaman, and Eker. And the sons of Onam were, Shammai, and Jada. And the sons of Shammai, Nadab, and Abishur. And the name of the woman of Abishur were Abihail, and she gendered him Aban, and Malad. And the sons of Nadab, Seled, and Appaim, but Seled died without children. And the sons of Appaim, Ishi. And the sons of Ishi, Sheshan. And the children of Sheshan, Ali. And the sons of Jada the brother of Shammai, Cheter, and Jonathan, and Cheter died without children. And the sons of Jonathan, Peleth, and Zaza. These were the sons of Jerahmeel. Now Sheshan had no sons, but daughters. And Sheshan had a slave, an Egyptian, whose name was Jarha. And Sheshan gave his daughter to Jarha his slave to wife, and she gendered him Attai. And Attai gendered Nathan, and Nathan gendered Zabad, and Zabad gendered Ephlal, and Ephlal gendered Obed, and Obed gendered Jehu, and Jehu gendered Azariah, and Azariah gendered Helez, and Helez gendered Eleasa, and Eleasa gendered Sisamai, and Sisamai gendered Shallum, and Shallum gendered Jechemiah, and Jechemiah gendered Elishama. Now the sons of Caleb the brother of Jerahmeel were, Mesha his firstborn, that was the father of Ziph, and the sons of Maresha the father of Hebron. And the sons of Hebron, Korah, Tapua, Rechem, and Shema. And Shema gendered Raham, the father of Jorcom, and Rechem gendered Shammai. And the son of Shammai was Maon, and Maon was the father of Bethshur. And Ephah, Caleb's concubine, gendered Haran, and Moza, and Gazas, and Haran gendered Gazas. And the sons of Jadai, Regem, Jotham, Jeshan, Peleh, Ephah, and Shaph. Makkah, Caleb's concubine, gendered Sheber, and Tirhana. She gendered also Shaph the father of Madmannah, Sheva the father of Macbenah, and the father of Gibeah, and the daughter of Caleb was Oxa. These were the sons of Caleb the son of Hur, the firstborn of Ephrata, Shobal the father of Kirath-Jearim, Salma the father of Bethlehem, Hareph the father of Beth-Gader. And Shobal the father of Kirath-Jearim had sons, Haroah, and half of the Manathites. And the families of Kirath-Jearim, the Ithrites, and the Puites, and the Shumathites, and the Mishrahites, of them came the Zarethites, and the Eshtalites. The sons of Salma, Bethlehem, and the Netophathites, Adaroth, the house of Joab, and half of the Manathites, the Zorites. And the families of the scribes that lived at Jabez, the Tirathites, the Shemithites, and Suchathites. These are the Kenites that came of Hemath, the father of the house of Rechab. Now these were the sons of David that were born to him in Hebron, the firstborn Amnon, of Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, the second Daniel, of Abigail the Carmelitess, the third, Absalom the son of Maacah the daughter of Talmai king of Geshur, the fourth, Adonijah the son of Haggith, the fifth, Shephatiah of Abital, the sixth, Ithream by Eglah his woman. These 6 were born to him in Hebron, and there he reigned 7 years and 6 months, and in Jerusalem he reigned 33 years. And these were born to him in Jerusalem, Shimeah, Shobab, Nathan, and Solomon, 4, of Bathshua the daughter of Amiel of Or also, and Elishama, Eliphalet, Noga, Nepheg, Yephiah, Elishama, Eliada, and Eliphalet, 9. These were all the sons of David, besides the sons of the concubines and Tamar their sister. And Solomon's son was Rehoboam, Abiah his son, Asa his son, Jehoshaphat his son, Joram his son, Ahaziah his son, Joash his son, Amaziah his son, Azariah his son, Jotham his son, Ahaz his son, Hezekiah his son, Manasseh his son, Amon his son, Josiah his son. And the sons of Josiah were, the firstborn Johanan, the second Jehoiakim, the third Zedekiah, the fourth Shallum. And the sons of Jehoiakim, Jeconiah his son, Zedekiah his son. And the sons of Jeconiah, Asir, Salathiel his son, Mulkiram also, and Pedaiah, Shenazar, Jechemiah, Heshama, and Nedabiah. And the sons of Pedaiah were, Zerubbabel, and Shimei, and the sons of Zerubbabel, Meshullam, Hananiah, and Shelemith their sister, and Hashubah, Ohel, Berechiah, Hasadiah, Jushab-Hezd, 5, and the sons of Hananiah, Pelatiah, and Jezaiah, the sons of Raphiah, the sons of Arnon, the sons of Obadiah, the sons of Shechaniah. And the sons of Shechaniah, Shemaiah, and the sons of Shemaiah, Hattush, Ijiel, Beriah, Neariah, Shaphat, 6. And the sons of Neariah, Elionai, Hezekiah, Azrikam, 3. And the sons of Elionai were, Hodaiah, Eliashib, Pelaiah, Akab, Johanan, Delaiah, Anani, 7. The sons of Judah, Pharez, Hezron, Carmi, Hur, and Shobal. And Reiah the son of Shobal gendered Jahath, and Jahath gendered Ahumai, and Lahad. These are the families of the Zorathites. And these were of the father of Edom, Jezreel, Ishma, Idbash, and the name of their sister was Hazelelponi, and Penel the father of Gedor, and Ezra the father of Hushah. These are the sons of Hur, the firstborn of Ephrata, the father of Bethlehem. And Asher the father of Tekoa had 2 women, Helah and Nara. And Nara gendered him Ahuzam, Heper, Temeni, and Haahashatari. These were the sons of Nara. And the sons of Helah were, Zareth, Jezor, Ethnon. And Cuz gendered Anub, and Zobeba, and the families of Aharhel the son of Haram. And Jabez was more honorable than his kinsmen, and his mother called his name Jabez saying, because I gendered him with sorrow. And Jabez called on the Elohim of Israel saying, Oh that you would bless me indeed, and enlarge my coast and that your hand might be with me, and that you would keep me from bad, that it may not grieve me. And Elohim granted him what he requested. And Chelub the brother of Shua gendered Mahir that was the father of Eshton. And Eshton gendered Bethrapha, and Paseah, and Tehinnah the father of Irnahash. These are the men of Rechah. And the sons of Kenaz, Othniel, and Sariah, and the sons of Othniel, Hathath. And Meonothai gendered Ophrah, and Sariah gendered Joab, the father of the valley of Sherashim, for they were craftsmen. And the sons of Caleb the son of Jephunneh, Iru, Elah, and Nam, and the sons of Elah, even Kenaz, and the sons of Jehaleleel, Ziph, Ziphah, Tiriah, and Asariel. And the sons of Ezra were, Sheter, Mered, Epher, Halon, and she gendered Miriam, Shammai, and Ishba the father of Eshtemoa. And his woman Jehudijah gendered Jared the father of Gedor, and Heber the father of Socho, and Jekuthiel the father of Zanoah. And these are the sons of Bithiah the daughter of Pharaoh that Mered took. And the sons of his woman Hodiah the sister of Naam, the father of Kala the Garmite, and Eshtemoa the Machathite. And the sons of Shimon were, Amnon, Rinnah, Ben-Anan, and Tylon. And the sons of Ishi were, Zaheth, and Ben-Zoeth. The sons of Shelah the son of Judah were, the father of Lekah, and Lada the father of Mareshah, and the families of the house of them that labored in fine linen, of the house of Ashbia, and Joachim, and the men of Chozeba, Joash, Saraph, who had the dominion in Moab, and Jashubilahem. And these things are ancient. These were the potters, and those that lived among plants and hedges, there they lived with the king for his work. The sons of Simeon were, Nemuel, and Jaman, Jerib, Zerah, and Shaul, Shallum his son, Mibsam his son, Mishma his son. And the sons of Mishma, Hamuel his son, Zachar his son, Shimei his son. And Shimei had 16 sons and 6 daughters, but his kinsmen had not many children, neither did all their family multiply, like to the children of Judah. And they lived at Beersheba, Moladah, Hazarshul, Bilhah, Ezem, Tolad, Betuel, Hormah, Ziklag, Beth Markaboth, Hazarzasim, Beth Beret, and Sharaim. These were their cities to the reign of David. And their villages were, Edom, Ain, Rimmon, Tachan, Ashan, 5 cities, and all their villages that were all around the same cities, unto Baal. These were their habitations, and their genealogy. And Meshabab, and Jamlech, and Joshua the son of Amaziah, and Joel, and Jehu the son of Josebiah, the son of Sariah, the son of Aziel, and Elionai, Jochebah, Yeshahiah, Asaiah, Adiel, Jesamiel, and Benaiah, and Ziza the son of Shiphi, the son of Alon, the son of Jediah, the son of Shimri, the son of Shemaiah. These mentioned by their names were princes in their families, and the house of their fathers increased greatly. And they went to the entrance of Gedor, even to the east side of the valley, to seek pasture for their flocks. And they found fat pasture and good, and the land was wide, and quiet, and peaceable, for they of Ham had lived there of old. And these written by name came in the days of Hezekiah king of Judah, and struck their tents, and the habitations that were found there, and devoted them to destruction to this day, and lived in their rooms, because there was pasture there for their flocks. And some of them, even of the sons of Simeon, 500 men, went to Mount Seir, having for their captains Pelatiah, Neariah, Raphiah, and Uzziel, the sons of Ishi. And they struck the rest of the Amalekites that were escaped, and lived there to this day. Now the sons of Reuben the firstborn of Israel, for he was the firstborn, but inasmuch as he defiled his father's bed, his birthright was given to the sons of Joseph the son of Israel, and the genealogy is not to be reckoned after the birthright. Because Judah prevailed above his kinsmen, and of him came the chief ruler, but the birthright was Joseph's. The sons of Reuben, the firstborn of Israel were, Hanok, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Joel, Shemaiah his son, Gog his son, Shimei his son, Micah his son, Reiah his son, Baal his son, Bera his son, who Tilgath-Pilnesa king of Assyria carried away captive. He was prince of the Reubenites. And his kinsmen by their families, when the genealogy of their generations was reckoned, were the chief, Jael, Zechariah, and Bela the son of Azaz, the son of Shema, the son of Joel, who lived in Aroer, even to Nebo and Bamian, and eastward he inhabited to the entering in of the uninhabited land from the river Euphrates, because their cattle were multiplied in the land of Gilead. And in the days of Saul they made war with the Hagarites, who fell by their hand, and they lived in their tents throughout all the east territory of Gilead. And the children of Gad lived opposite them, in the land of Bashan to Salcah, Joel the chief, and Shapham the next, and Hanai, and Shaphat in Bashan. And their kinsmen of the house of their fathers were, Michael, Meshullam, Sheba, Jorai, Jachin, Zia, Heber, 7. These are the children of Abihail the son of Huri, the son of Jeroah, the son of Gilead, the son of Michael, the son of Jeshashai, the son of Jado, the son of Buz, the son of Abdiel, the son of Guni, chief of the house of their fathers. And they lived in Gilead in Bashan, and in her towns, and in all the suburbs of Sharon, upon their borders. All these were reckoned by genealogies in the days of Jotham king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam king of Israel. The sons of Reuben, and the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh, of valiant men, men able to bear buckler and sword, and to shoot with bow, and skillful in war, were 44,760 that went out to the war. And they made war with the Hagarites, with Jetur, Nephish, and Nodab. And they were helped against them, and the Hagarites were delivered into their hand, and all that were with them, because they cried to Elohim in the battle, and he was entreated of them, because they put their trust in him. And they took away their cattle, of their camels 50,000, and of sheep 250,000, and of donkeys 2,000, and of men 100,000. Because there fell down many killed, because the war was of Elohim. And they lived in their place until the exile. And the children of the half-tribe of Manasseh lived in the land. They increased from Bashan to Baal-Hermon and Senir, and to Mount Hermon. And these were the heads of the house of their fathers, even Epher, Ishi, Eliel, Azriel, Jeremiah, Hodaviah, and Jadiel, mighty men of valor, famous men, and heads of the house of their forefathers. And they transgressed against the Elohim of their ancestors, and went a-whoring after the Elohim of the people of the land, whom Elohim destroyed before them. And the Elohim of Israel stirred up the spirit of Pul king of Assyria, and the spirit of Tilgath-Pilnesa king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites, and the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and brought them to Halah, Habor, and Hara, and to the river Gozan, to this day. The sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. And the sons of Kohath, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. And the children of Amram, Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. The sons also of Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. Eleazar gendered Phinehas, Phinehas gendered Avishua, and Avishua gendered Bukai, and Bukai gendered Uzi, and Uzi gendered Zerahiah, and Zerahiah gendered Merioth, Merioth gendered Amariah, and Amariah gendered Ahidub, and Ahidub gendered Zadok, and Zadok gendered Ahimaaz, and Ahimaaz gendered Azariah, and Azariah gendered Johanan, and Johanan gendered Azariah. He it is that executed the priest's office in the temple that Solomon built in Jerusalem, and Azariah gendered Amariah, and Amariah gendered Ahidub, and Ahidub gendered Zadok, and Zadok gendered Shallum, and Shallum gendered Hilkiah, and Hilkiah gendered Azariah, and Azariah gendered Sariah, and Sariah gendered Jehozadak. And Jehozadak went into captivity, when YHWH carried away Judah and Jerusalem by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar. The sons of Levi, Gershom, Kohath, and Merari. And these are the names of the sons of Gershom, Libni, and Shimei. And the sons of Kohath were, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, and Uzziel. The sons of Merari, Mali, and Mushi. And these are the families of the Levites according to their fathers. Of Gershom, Libni his son, Jahath his son, Zimmah his son, Joah his son, Edo his son, Zerah his son, Jeterai his son. The sons of Kohath, Aminadab his son, Korah his son, Asir his son, Elkanah his son, and Abiasaph his son, and Asir his son, Tahat his son, Uriel his son, Uzziah his son, and Shaul his son. And the sons of Elkanah, Amasai, and Ahimoth. As for Elkanah, the sons of Elkanah, Zophai his son, and Nahath his son, Eliab his son, Jeroham his son, Elkanah his son. And the sons of Samuel, the firstborn Vasni, and Abiah. The sons of Merari, Mali, Libni his son, Shimei his son, Uzzah his son, Shimeah his son, Haggiah his son, Asaiah his son. And these are they whom David set over the service of song in the house of YHWH, after that the ark had a resting place. And they ministered before the dwelling place of the tabernacle at the appointed place with singing, until Solomon had built the temple of YHWH in Jerusalem, and then they waited on their office according to their order. And these are they that waited with their children. Of the sons of the Kohathites, Haman a singer, the son of Joel, the son of Shemuel, the son of Elkanah, the son of Jeroham, the son of Eliel, the son of Toah, the son of Zuph, the son of Elkanah, the son of Mahath, the son of Amasai, the son of Elkanah, the son of Joel, the son of Azariah, the son of Zephaniah, the son of Tahat, the son of Asir, the son of Abiasaph, the son of Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, the son of Israel. And his brother Asaph, who stood on his right hand, even Asaph the son of Berechiah, the son of Shimeah, the son of Michael, the son of Basaiah, the son of Malchiah, the son of Etni, the son of Zerah, the son of Adaiah, the son of Ethan, the son of Zimmah, the son of Shimei, the son of Jahath, the son of Gershom, the son of Levi. And their kinsmen the sons of Merari stood on the left hand, Ethan the son of Kishi, the son of Abdi, the son of Malach, the son of Hashabiah, the son of Amaziah, the son of Hilkiah, the son of Amzi, the son of Bani, the son of Shamer, the son of Mali, the son of Mushi, the son of Merari, the son of Levi. Their kinsmen also the Levites were appointed to all manner of service of the tabernacle of the house of Elohim. But Aaron and his sons offered upon the altar of the whole burnt offering, and on the altar of incense, and were appointed for all the work of the most holy place, and to make a covering for Israel, according to all that Moses the slave of Elohim had commanded. And these are the sons of Aaron, Eleazar his son, Phinehas his son, Abishua his son, Bukai his son, Uzzi his son, Zerahiah his son, Merioth his son, Amariah his son, Ahitub his son, Zadok his son, Ahimaaz his son. Now these are their dwelling places throughout their castles and their coasts, of the sons of Aaron, of the families of the Kohathites, for theirs was the lot. And they gave them Hebron in the land of Judah, and its suburbs all around it. But the fields of the city, and its villages, they gave to Caleb the son of Jephunneh. And to the sons of Aaron they gave the cities of Judah, namely Hebron, the city of refuge, and Libnah with its suburbs, and Jatir, and Eshtemoa, with its suburbs, and Hilen with its suburbs, Debir with its suburbs, and Ashan with its suburbs, and Bethshemesh with its suburbs, and out of the tribe of Benjamin, Geba with its suburbs, and Alemeth with its suburbs, and Anatoth with its suburbs. All their cities throughout their families were 13 cities. And to the sons of Kohath, that were left of the family of that tribe, were cities given out of the half-tribe, namely, out of the half-tribe of Manasseh, by lot, 10 cities. And to the sons of Gershom throughout their families out of the tribe of Issachar, and out of the tribe of Asher, and out of the tribe of Naphtali, and out of the tribe of Manasseh and Bashan, 13 cities. To the sons of Merari were given by lot, throughout their families, out of the tribe of Reuben, and out of the tribe of Gad, and out of the tribe of Zebulun, 12 cities. And the children of Israel gave to the Levites these cities with their suburbs. And they gave by lot out of the tribe of the children of Judah, and out of the tribe of the children of Simeon, and out of the tribe of the children of Benjamin, these cities that are called by their names. And the residue of the families of the sons of Kohath had cities of their coasts out of the tribe of Ephraim. And they gave to them, of the cities of refuge, Shechem in Mount Ephraim with its suburbs, they gave also Gezer with its suburbs, and Jokmeam with its suburbs, and Beth-oron with its suburbs, and Ayalon with its suburbs, and Gathrimmon with its suburbs, and out of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Aner with its suburbs, and Bileam with its suburbs, for the family of the remnant of the sons of Kohath. To the sons of Gershom were given out of the family of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Golan and Bashan with its suburbs, and Ashtaroth with its suburbs, and out of the tribe of Issachar, Kadesh with its suburbs, Daberoth with its suburbs, and Ramoth with its suburbs, and Anam with its suburbs, and out of the tribe of Asher, Mashal with its suburbs, and Abdon with its suburbs, and Hukok with its suburbs, and Rehob with its suburbs, and out of the tribe of Naphtali, Kadesh in Galilee with its suburbs, and Hammon with its suburbs, and Kirjathaim with its suburbs. To the rest of the children of Merari were given out of the tribe of Zebulun, Rimmon with its suburbs, Tabor with its suburbs, and on the other side Jordan by Jericho, on the east side of Jordan, were given them out of the tribe of Reuben, but Sarah in the wilderness with its suburbs, and Jahzah with its suburbs, Kedemoth also with its suburbs, and Mephoth with its suburbs, and out of the tribe of Gad, Ramoth in Gilead with its suburbs, and Mahanaim with its suburbs, and Heshbon with its suburbs, and Yazer with its suburbs. Now the sons of Issachar were, Tola, Puah, Jashub, Shimron, 4. And the sons of Tola, Uzi, Raphiah, Jeriel, Jemai, Jibsam, and Shemuel, heads of their father's house, to wit, of Tola, they were valiant men of might in their generations, whose number was in the days of David 22,600. And the sons of Uzi, Izrahiah, and the sons of Izrahiah, Michael, Obadiah, Joel, Isha, 5, all of them chief men. And with them, by their generations, after the house of their forefathers, were bands of soldiers for war, 36,000 men, because they had many wives and sons. And their kinsmen among all the families of Issachar were valiant men of might, reckoned in all by their genealogies 87,000. The sons of Benjamin, Bela, Becher, Jediel, 3. And the sons of Bela, Esban, Uzi, Uziel, Jeremoth, Eri, 5, heads of the house of their forefathers, mighty men of valor, and were reckoned by their genealogies 22,034. And the sons of Becher, Zemira, Joash, Eliezer, Elionai, Omri, Jeremoth, Abiah, Anatoth, and Elamoth. All these are the sons of Becher. And the number of them, after their genealogy by their generations, heads of the house of their forefathers, mighty men of valor, was 20,200. The sons also of Jediel, Bilhan, and the sons of Bilhan, Jeish, Benjamin, Ehud, Chenana, Zethan, Tharshish, and Ahishahar. All these the sons of Jediel, by the heads of their forefathers, mighty men of valor, were 17,200 soldiers, fit to go out for war and battle. Shuppim also, and Huppim, the children of Ir, and Hushim, the sons of Aher. The sons of Naphtali, Jahertziel, Guni, Jezer, and Shallum, the sons of Bilhah. The sons of Manasseh, Ashriel, whom she gendered, but his concubine the Aramitess gendered Machir the father of Gilead, and Machir took to wife the sister of Huppim and Shuppim, whose sister's name was Makkah, and the name of the second was Zelophehad, and Zelophehad had daughters. And Makkah the woman of Machir gendered a son, and she called his name Peresh, and the name of his brother was Sheresh, and his sons were Ulam and Rakem. And the sons of Ulam, Betan. These were the sons of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh. And his sister Hameleketh gendered Ishad, Abizer, and Mahalah. And the sons of Shemida were, Ahian, Shechem, Leki, and Aniam. And the sons of Ephraim, Shuthelah, and Bered his son, and Tahat his son, and Eladah his son, and Tahat his son, and Zabad his son, and Shuthelah his son, and Ezer, and Elid, whom the men of Gath that were born in that land killed, because they came down to take away their cattle. And Ephraim their father mourned many days, and his kinsmen came to comfort him. And when he went in to his wife, she conceived and gendered a son, and he called his name Beriah, because it went bad with his house. And his daughter was Sherah, who built Beth-oron the lower, and the upper, and Uzzen-Sherah. And Repha was his son, also Resheph, and Telah his son, and Tahan his son, Lotan his son, Ammihud his son, Elishama his son, Non his son, Yeheshua his son. And their possessions and habitations were, Bethel and its towns, and eastward Naran, and westward Gezer, with its towns, Shechem also and its towns, to Gaza and its towns, And by the borders of the children of Manasseh, Beth-shean and its towns, Tanakh and its towns, Megiddo and its towns, Dor and its towns. In these lived the children of Joseph the son of Israel. The sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishua, Ishuai, Beriah, and Sarah their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel, who is the father of Berzaveth. And Heber gendered Japhlet, Shomer, Hotham, and Shua their sister. And the sons of Japhlet, Pesach, Bimhal, and Ashvath. These are the children of Japhlet. And the sons of Shamer, Roga, Jehubbah, and Aram. And the sons of his brother Helam, Zophah, Imnah, Shelesh, and Amal. The sons of Zophah, Sua, Harnepher, Shual, Beri, Imrah, Butser, Had, Shammah, Shilshah, Ithron, and Bera. And the sons of Cheter, Jephunneh, Pispa, and Ara. And the sons of Ulah, Ara, Haniel, and Rejah. All these were the children of Asher, heads of their forefathers' house, choice and mighty men of valor, chief of the princes. And the number throughout the genealogy of them that were apt to the war and to battle was 26,000 men. Now Benjamin gendered Bela his firstborn, Ashbel the second, and Ahara the third, Noah the fourth, and Rapha the fifth. And the sons of Bela were, Adar, Jerah, Abahid, Abishua, Naaman, Ahoah, Jerah, Shaphupan, and Huram. And these are the sons of Ehud, these are the heads of the fathers of the inhabitants of Geba, and they removed them to Manahath, and Naaman, Ahiah, and Jerah, he removed them, and gendered Uzzah, and Ahihud. And Shaharim gendered children in the country of Moab, after he had sent them away, Hushim and Bara were his wives. And he gendered of Hodesh his wife, Jobab, Zebiah, Mesha, Malcolm, Jeuz, Shakiah, and Mirma. These were his sons, heads of the forefathers. And of Hushim he gendered Abitub, and Elpaal. The sons of Elpaal, Eber, Misham, Shamed, who built Ono, and Lod, with its towns, Beriah also, and Shema, who were heads of the forefathers of the inhabitants of Ayalon, who drove away the inhabitants of Gath, and Ahio, Shashak, Jeremoth, Zebediah, Arad, Ader, Michael, Ispa, and Hoa, the sons of Beriah, and Zebediah, Meshullam, Hiziki, Heber, Ishmerai also, and Jezliah, and Jobab, the sons of Elpaal, and Joachim, Zitri, Zabdi, Elini, Zilthai, Eliel, Adaiah, Beriah, and Shimrath, the sons of Shimhi, and Ishpan, Heber, Eliel, Abdon, Zitri, Hanan, Hananiah, Elam, and Toijah, Iftaiah, and Penol, the sons of Shishak, and Shamsherai, Shahariah, Athaliah, Jerasiah, Eliah, and Zitri, the sons of Jeroham. These were heads of the fathers, by their generations, chief men. These lived in Jerusalem. And at Gibeon lived the father of Gibeon, whose wife's name was Maachah, and his firstborn son Abdon, and Zur, Kish, Baal, Nadab, Gedor, Ahio, and Zachar. And Mikloth gendered Shemiah. And these also lived with their kinsmen in Jerusalem, opposite them. And Ner gendered Kish, and Kish gendered Saul, and Saul gendered Jonathan, Malchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbal. And the son of Jonathan was Meribal, and Meribal gendered Micah. And the sons of Micah were, Piton, Melech, Tereah, and Ahaz. And Ahaz gendered Jehoiada, and Jehoiada gendered Alemeth, Asmaveth, Zimri, and Zimri gendered Moza, and Moza gendered Beniah. Rapha was his son, Eleasa his son, Azel his son, and Azel had 6 sons, whose names are these, Azrikam, Bokeru, Ishmael, Shariah, Obadiah, and Hanan. All these were the sons of Azel. And the sons of Eshek his brother were, Ulam his firstborn, Jehush the second, and Eliphalet the third. And the sons of Ulam were mighty men of valor, archers, and had many sons, and sons' sons, 150. All these are of the sons of Benjamin. So all Israel were reckoned by genealogies, and behold, they were written in the book of kings of Israel and Judah, who were carried away to Babylon for their transgression. Now the first inhabitants that lived in their possessions in their cities were, the Israelites, the priests, Levites, and the Nethinims. And in Jerusalem lived of the children of Judah, and of the children of Benjamin, and of the children of Ephraim, and Manasseh, Uttai the son of Ammihud, the son of Omri, the son of Imri, the son of Bani, of the children of Pharez the son of Judah. And of the Shilonites, Asaiah the firstborn, and his sons. And of the sons of Zerah, Jewel, and their kinsmen, 690. And of the sons of Benjamin, Sallu the son of Meshullam, the son of Hodaviah, the son of Hasenuah, and Ibneiah the son of Jeroham, and Elah the son of Uzi, the son of Mikri, and Meshullam the son of Shephatiah, the son of Ruel, the son of Ibnijah, and their kinsmen, according to their generations, 956. All these men were chief of the fathers in the house of their fathers. And of the priests, Jediah, Jehoiarib, Jachin, and Azariah the son of Hilkiah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Zadok, the son of Merioth, the son of Ahitub, the ruler of the house of Elohim, and Adaiah the son of Jeroham, the son of Pashur, the son of Malchijah, and Maasei the son of Adiel, the son of Jozerah, the son of Meshullam, the son of Meshulemeth, the son of Immer, and their kinsmen, heads of the house of their fathers, 1,760, very able men for the work of the service of the house of Elohim. And of the Levites, Shemaiah the son of Hashab, the son of Azrikam, the son of Hashabiah, of the sons of Merari, and Bakbakar, Haresh, Galal, and Mattaniah the son of Micah, the son of Zitri, the son of Asaph, and Obadiah the son of Shemaiah, the son of Galal, the son of Jeduthun, and Berechiah the son of Asa, the son of Elkanah, that lived in the villages of the Netophathites. And the porters were, Shallum, Achab, Talmon, Ahiman, and their kinsmen. Shallum was the chief, who until then waited in the king's gate eastward. They were porters in the companies of the children of Levi. And Shallum the son of Kor, the son of Abiasaph, the son of Korah, and his kinsmen, of the house of his father, the Korahites, were over the work of the service, guards of the gates of the tabernacle, and their fathers, being over the camp of YHWH, were guards of the entry. And Phinehas the son of Eleazar was the ruler over them in time past, and YHWH was with him. And Zechariah the son of Meshelemiah was porter of the entrance of the tabernacle at the appointed place. All these that were chosen to be porters in the gates 212. These were reckoned by their genealogy in their villages, who David and Samuel the seer did appoint in their set office. So they and their children had the oversight of the gates of the house of YHWH, namely, the house of the tabernacle by watches. In 4 quarters were the porters, toward the east, west, north, and south. And their kinsmen that were in their villages, were to come after 7 days from time to time with them. Because these Levites, the 4 chief porters, were in their set office, and were over the chambers and treasury of the house of Elohim. And they lodged all around the house of Elohim, because the charge was upon them, and the opening of it every morning pertained to them. And certain of them had the charge of the ministering vessels, that they should bring them in and out by number. Some of them also were appointed to oversee the vessels, and all the instruments of the sanctuary, and the fine flour, and the wine, and the oil, and the frankincense, and the spices. And some of the sons of the priests made the ointment of the spices. And Mattathiah, one of the Levites, who was the firstborn of Shallum the Korahite, had the set office over the things that were made in the pans. And other of their kinsmen, of the sons of the Kohathites, were over the showbread, to prepare it every Sabbath. And these are the singers, chief of the fathers of the Levites, who remaining in the chambers were free, because they were employed in that work day and night. These chief fathers of the Levites were chief throughout their generations. These lived at Jerusalem. And in Gibeon lived the father of Gibeon, Jehiel, whose wife's name was Maachah, and his firstborn son Abdon, then Zur, Kish, Baal, Ner, Nadab, Gedor, Ahio, Zechariah, and Mikloth. And Mikloth gendered Shemim. And they also lived with their kinsmen at Jerusalem, opposite their kinsmen. And Ner gendered Kish, and Kish gendered Saul, and Saul gendered Jonathan, Malchishua, Abinadab, and Eshbal. And the son of Jonathan was Meribal, and Meribal gendered Micah. And the sons of Micah were, Piton, Melech, Tariah, and Ahaz. And Ahaz gendered Jarah, and Jarah gendered Alemeth, and Asmaveth, and Zimri gendered Moza, and Moza gendered Beniah, and Raphiah his son, Eleasa his son, Azel his son. And Azel had 6 sons, whose names are these, Azrikam, Bokeru, Ishmael, Shariah, Obadiah, and Hanan. These were the sons of Azel. Now the Philistines fought against Israel, and the men of Israel fled from before the Philistines, and fell down killed in Mount Gilboa. And the Philistines followed hard after Saul, and after his sons, and the Philistines killed Jonathan, Abinadab, and Malchishua, the sons of Saul. And the battle went hard against Saul, and the archers hit him and he was wounded by the archers. Then Saul said to his armor-bearer, "Draw your sword and thrust me through with it, unless these uncircumcised come and torture me." But his armor-bearer would not, because he was much afraid. So Saul took a sword and fell on it. And when his armor-bearer saw that Saul was dead, he fell likewise on the sword, and died. So Saul died, and his 3 sons, and all his house died together. And when all the men of Israel that were in the valley saw that they fled, and that Saul and his sons were dead, then they forsook their cities and fled, and the Philistines came and lived in them. And it came to pass on the next day, when the Philistines came to strip the slain, that they found Saul and his sons fallen in Mount Gilboa. And when they had stripped him, they took his head, and his armor and sent into the land of the Philistines all around, to bear the news to their idols and to the people. And they put his armor in the house of their Elohim, and fastened his head in the temple of Dagon. And when all Jabesh Gilead heard all that the Philistines had done to Saul, they arose, all the valiant men, and took away the body of Saul, and the bodies of his sons, and brought them to Jabesh, and buried their bones under the oak in Jabesh, and fasted 7 days. So Saul died for his transgression that he committed against Yhwh, even against the word of Yhwh, which he observed not, and also for asking counsel of one that had a familiar spirit, to inquire of it, and inquired, through Urim-Thummim, not of Yhwh, therefore he killed him, and turned the kingdom to David the son of Jesse. Then all Israel gathered themselves to David to Hebron, saying, Look, we are your bone and your flesh. And moreover in times past, even when Saul was king, you were he that led out and brought in Israel, and Yhwh Elohim said to you, You will feed my people Israel, and you will be ruler over my people Israel. Therefore all the elders of Israel came to the king to Hebron, and David made a covenant with them in Hebron before Yhwh, and they anointed David king over Israel, according to the word of Yhwh by Samuel. And David and all Israel went to Jerusalem, that is Jebus, where the Jebusites were, the inhabitants of the land. And the inhabitants of Jebus said to David, You will not come here. Nevertheless David took the stronghold of Zion, that is the city of David. And David said, Whoever kills the Jebusites first will be chief and captain. So Joab the son of Zeruiah went first up, and was chief. And David lived in the stronghold, therefore they called it the city of David. And he built the city all around, even from Millo all around, and Joab repaired the rest of the city. So David grew greater and greater, because Yhwh of hosts was with him. These also are the chief of the mighty men who David had, who strengthened themselves with him in his kingdom and with all Israel, to make him king according to the word of Yhwh concerning Israel. And this is the number of the mighty men who David had: Jashobeam, an Hachmonite, the chief of the captains. He lifted up his spear against 300 killed by him at one time. And after him was Eleazar the son of Dodo, the Ahite, who was one of the 3 mighty men. He was with David at Pasdammim, and there the Philistines were gathered together to battle, where was a parcel of ground full of barley, and the people fled from before the Philistines. And they set themselves in the middle of that parcel, and delivered it, and killed the Philistines, and Yhwh saved them by a great deliverance. Now 3 of the 30 captains went down to the rock to David, into the cave of Adullam, and the army of the Philistines encamped in the valley of Rephaim. And David was then in the stronghold, and the Philistines' garrison was then at Bethlehem. And David longed and said, Oh, that one would give me drink from the water of the well of Bethlehem, that is at the gate. And the 3 broke through the army of the Philistines, and drew water out of the well of Bethlehem, that was by the gate, and took it, and brought it to David, but David would not drink of it, but poured it out to Yhwh. And said, My Elohim forbid it me, that I should do this thing. Will I drink the blood of these men that have put their lives in jeopardy? For with the jeopardy of their lives they brought it. Therefore he would not drink it. These things did these 3 mighty men. And Abishai the brother of Joab, he was chief of the 3, for lifting up his spear against 300, he killed them and had a name among the 3. Of the 3, he was more honorable than the 2, because he was their captain, but he attained not to the first 3. Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, the son of a valiant man of Kabzeel, who had done many acts, he killed 2 lion-like men of Moab. Also he went down and killed a lion in a pit on a snowy day. And he killed an Egyptian, a man of great stature, 5 cubits tall, 7.5 feet, and in the Egyptian's hand was a spear like a weaver's beam, and he went down to him with a staff, and plucked the spear out of the Egyptian's hand, and killed him with his own spear. These things did Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and had the name among the 3 mighty men. Behold, he was honorable among the 30, but attained not to the first 3, and David set him over his guard. Also the valiant men of the armies were, Asahel the brother of Joab, Elhanan the son of Dodo of Bethlehem, Shamath the Harorite, Helez the Pelonite, Ira the son of Ikesh the Tekoite, Abiezer the Antothite, Sibbecai the Hushathite, Il the Ahite, Maharai the Netophathite, Huld the son of Baana the Netophathite, Ittai the son of Ribai of Gibeah, that pertained to the children of Benjamin, Benaiah the Parathonite, Hurai of the brooks of Gosh, Abiel the Arbathite, Asmaveth the Baharamite, Eliabah the Shalbanite, the sons of Hashem the Gizonite, Jonathan the son of Shaj the Hararite, Ahiam the son of Sakar the Hararite, Eliphal the son of Yor, Heper the Macherathite, Ahijah the Pelonite, Hezro the Carmelite, Neri the son of Ezbai, Joel the brother of Nathan, Mabhar the son of Hagari, Zelek the Ammonite, Naharai the Barathite, the armor-bearer of Joab the son of Zeruiah, Ira the Ithrite, Gareb the Ithrite, Uriah the Hittite, Zabad the son of Alai, Adiniah the son of Shiza the Reubenite, a captain of the Reubenites, and 30 with him, Hanan the son of Makkah, and Joshaphat the Mithnite, Uzziah the Ashtorethite, Shammah and Yehiel the sons of Hathan the Arorite, Jediel the son of Shimri, and Hoa his brother, the Tizite, Eliel the Moabite, and Jerubai, and Joshaviah, the sons of Elnaam, and Ithma the Moabite, Eliel, and Obed, and Jaziel the Mesabate. Now these are they that came to David to Ziklag, while he still kept himself close because of Saul the son of Kish, and they were among the mighty men, helpers of the war. They were armed with bows, and could use both the right hand and the left in hurling stones and shooting arrows out of a bow, even of Saul's kinsman of Benjamin. The chief was Ahiezer, then Joash, the sons of Shammah the Gibeathite, and Jeziel, and Peleh, the sons of Asmaveth, and Brahah, and Jehu the Anthite, and Ismaiah the Jibonite, a mighty man among the 30, and over the 30, and Jeremiah, Jahaziel, Johanan, Jozabad the Gederathite, Eluzai, Jeremoth, Bealiah, Shemariah, Shephatiah the Heraphite, Elkanah, Jesiah, Azareel, Joezer, Jashabeam, the Karites, and Joelah, and Zebediah, the sons of Jeroham of Gedor. And of the Gadites there separated themselves to David into the stronghold to the wilderness men of might, and men of war fit for the battle, that could handle shield and buckler, whose faces were like the faces of lions, and were as swift as the gazelles upon the mountains, Ezra the first, Obadiah the second, Eliab the third, Mishmanah the fourth, Jeremiah the fifth, Attai the sixth, Eliel the seventh, Johanan the eighth, Elzabad the ninth, Jeremiah the 10th, Mishbani the 11th. These were of the sons of Gad, captains of the army. One of the least was over 100, and the greatest over 1,000. These are they that went over Jordan in the first month, when it had overflowed all its banks, and they put to flight all them of the valleys, both toward the east, and toward the west. And there came of the children of Benjamin and Judah to the stronghold to David. And David went out to meet them, and answered and said to them, If you are come peaceably to me to help me, my heart will be knit to you. But if you are coming to betray me to mine enemies, seeing there is no wrong in my hands, may the Elohim of our fathers look at this and rebuke. Then the Spirit came upon Amasai, who was chief of the captains, and he said, We are yours, David, and on your side, you son of Jesse, peace, peace be to you, and peace be to your helpers, because your Elohim helps you. Then David received them, and made them captains of the band. And there fell some of Manasseh to David, when he came with the Philistines against Saul to battle, but they helped them not, because the lords of the Philistines upon advisement sent him away saying, He will fall to his master Saul to the jeopardy of our heads. As he went to Ziklag, there fell to him of Manasseh, Adnah, Jozabad, Jediel, Michael, Jozabad, Elihu, and Zilthai, captains of the thousands that were of Manasseh. And they helped David against the band of the rovers, because they were almighty men of valor, and were captains in the army. Because at that time day by day there came to David to help him, until it was a great army, like the army of Elohim. And these are the numbers of the bands that were ready armed to the war, and came to David to Hebron, to turn the kingdom of Saul to him, according to the word of YHWH. The children of Judah that carried shield and spear were 6,800, ready armed to the war. Of the children of Simeon, mighty men of valor for the war, 7,100. Of the children of Levi 4,600. And Jehoiada was the leader of the Aaronites, and with him were 3,700, and Zadok, a young man mighty of valor, and of his father's house 22 captains. And of the children of Benjamin, the relatives of Saul, 3,000, for until now the greatest part of them had guarded the watch of the house of Saul. And of the children of Ephraim 20,800, mighty men of valor, famous throughout the house of their forefathers. And of the half-tribe of Manasseh 18,000, that were expressed by name, to come and make David king. And of the children of Issachar, that were men that had understanding of the times, to know what Israel ought to do, the heads of them were 200, and all their kinsmen were at their commandment. Of Zebulun, such as went out to battle, expert in war, with all instruments of war, 50,000 that could keep rank, they were not double-minded. And of Naphtali 1,000 captains, and with them with shield and spear 37,000. And of the Danites expert in war, 28,600. And of Asher, such as went out to battle, expert in war, 40,000. And on the other side of Jordan, of the Reubenites, and the Gadites, and of the half-tribe of Manasseh, with all types of instruments of war for the battle, 120,000. All these men of war, that could keep rank, came with a whole heart to Hebron, to make David king over all Israel, and all the rest also of Israel were of one mind to make David king. And there they were with David 3 days, eating and drinking, because their kinsmen had prepared for them. And also those near to them, to Issachar, Zebulun, and Naphtali, are bringing in bread on donkeys, camels, and on mules and oxen, food of fine flour, fig cakes and grape cakes, wine, oil, oxen, and sheep in abundance, for gladness is in Israel. And David consulted with the captains of thousands and hundreds, and with every leader. And David said to all the company of Israel, If it seems good to you, and that it is of Yhwh our Elohim, let us send abroad to our kinsmen everywhere, that are left in all the land of Israel, and with them also to the priests and Levites that are in their cities and suburbs, that they may gather themselves to us, and let us bring around the ark of our Elohim to us, because we inquired, by Thummim, not at it in the days of Saul. And all the company said that they would do so, because the thing was right in the eyes of all the people. So David gathered all Israel together, from Shihor of Egypt even to the entering of Hemath, to bring the ark of Elohim from Kiriath-Jearim. And David went up, and all Israel, to Baalah, that is, to Kiriath-Jearim, that belonged to Judah, to bring up from there the ark of Elohim Yhwh, that resides between the cherubim, whose name is called on it. And they carried the ark of Elohim in a new cart out of the house of Abinadab, and Uzzah and Ahio drove the cart. And David and all Israel played before Elohim with all their might, and with singing, and with lyres, and with bagpipes, skin bags, and with tambourines, and with cymbals, and with trumpets. And when they came to the threshing floor of Kidon, Uzzah put out his hand to hold the ark, because the oxen stumbled. And the nostrils of Yhwh flared against Uzzah, and he struck him because he put his hand to the ark, and there he died before Elohim. And David was displeased, because Yhwh had made a breach upon Uzzah, therefore that place is called Perez-Uzzah to this day. Then David was afraid of Elohim that day, saying, How will I bring the ark of Elohim home to me? So David did not bring the ark home to himself to the city of David, but carried it aside into the house of Obededom the Gittite. And the ark of Elohim remained with the family of Obededom in his house 3 months. And Yhwh blessed the house of Obededom, and all that he had. Now Hiram king of Tyre sent messengers to David, and timber of cedars, with masons and carpenters, to build him a house. And David perceived that Yhwh had confirmed him king over Israel, because his kingdom was lifted up on high, because of his people Israel. And David took more wives at Jerusalem, and David gendered more sons and daughters. Now these are the names of his children that he had in Jerusalem: Shammua, Shobab, Nathan, Solomon, Ivor, Elishua, Elpalet, Noga, Nepheg, Yephiah, Elishama, Beelida, and Eliphalet. And when the Philistines heard that David was anointed king over all Israel, all the Philistines went up to seek David. And David heard of it, and went out against them. And the Philistines came and spread themselves in the valley of Rephaim. And David inquired, by Thummim, of Elohim, saying, Will I go up against the Philistines? And will you deliver them into my hand? And Yhwh replied to him, Go up, because I will deliver them into your hand. So they came up to Baal-Perasim, and David struck them there. Then David said, Elohim has broken in upon my enemies by my hand like the breaking forth of waters, therefore they called the name of that place Baal-Perasim. And when they had left their Elohim there, David gave a commandment and they were burnt with fire. And the Philistines yet again spread themselves abroad in the valley. Therefore David inquired again of Elohim, and Elohim said to him, Go not up after them, turn away from them, and come upon them opposite the balsam trees. And it will be, when you will hear a sound of going in the tops of the balsam trees, that then you will go out to battle, because Elohim has gone forth before you to strike the army of the Philistines. David therefore did as Elohim commanded him, and they struck the army of the Philistines from Gibeon even to Gezer. And the fame of David went out into all lands, and Yhwh brought the fear of him upon all nations. And David made himself houses in the city of David, and prepared a standing place for the ark of Elohim, and pitched for it a tent. Then David commanded, None are to carry the ark of Elohim except the Levites, because on them has Yhwh fixed to carry the ark of Elohim, and to serve him, unto the age. Then David gathered all Israel together to Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of Yhwh to its standing place, that he had prepared for it. And David assembled the children of Aaron and the Levites, of the sons of Kohath, Uriel the chief, and his kinsmen 120, of the sons of Merari, Asaiah the chief, and his kinsmen 220, of the sons of Gershom, Joel the chief, and his kinsmen 130, of the sons of Elizaphan, Shemaiah the chief, and his kinsmen 200, of the sons of Hebron, Eliel the chief, and his kinsmen 80, of the sons of Uzziel, Aminadab the chief, and his kinsmen 112. And David called for Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and for the Levites, for Uriel, Asaiah, and Joel, Shemaiah, and Eliel, and Aminadab. And said to them, You are the chief of the fathers of the Levites, consecrate yourselves, both you and your kinsmen, that you may bring up the ark of Yhwh Elohim of Israel to the place that I have prepared for it. Because at the first it was not you, Yhwh our Elohim made a breach upon us, because we sought him not according to the ordinance. So the priests and the Levites consecrated themselves to bring up the ark of Yhwh Elohim of Israel. And the children of the Levites carried the ark of Elohim upon their shoulders with the bar poles, as Moses commanded according to the word of Yhwh. And David spoke to the chief of the Levites to appoint their kinsmen to be the singers with instruments of music, bagpipes, skin bags, and lyres and cymbals, sounding, by lifting up the voice with joy. So the Levites appointed Haman the son of Joel, and of his kinsmen, Asaph the son of Berechiah, and of the sons of Merari their kinsmen, Ethan the son of Kishiah, and with them their kinsmen of the second order, Zechariah, Ben, Haziel, Shemiramoth, Yehiel, Uni, Eliab, Benaiah, Maaseiah, Mattithiah, Eliphele, Micneiah, Obededom, and Jael the porters. So the singers, Haman, Asaph, and Ethan, were appointed to sound with cymbals of bronze, and Zechariah, Aziel, Shemiramoth, Yehiel, Uni, Eliab, Maaseiah, Benaiah, with bagpipes, skin bags, on Alamoth, and Mattithiah, and Eliphele, and Micneiah, and Obed-Edom, and Jael, and Azaziah, with lyres, on the octave, to oversee. And Kenaniah, chief of the Levites, was for song, he instructed about the song, because he was skillful. And Berechiah and Elkanah were doorkeepers for the ark. And Shebaniah, Jehoshaphat, Nethaneel, Amasai, Zechariah, Benaiah, and Eliezer, the priests, did blow with the trumpets before the ark of Elohim, and Obededom and Jehiah were porters for the ark. So David, and the elders of Israel, and the captains over thousands, went to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yhwh out of the house of Obededom with joy. And it came to pass, when Elohim helped the Levites that carried the ark of the covenant of Yhwh, that they offered 7 young bulls and 7 rams. And David was clothed with a robe of fine linen, and all the Levites that carried the ark, and the singers, and Kenaniah the master of the song with the singers, David also had upon him the ephod of linen. So all Israel brought up the ark of the covenant of Yhwh with shouting, and with sound of the ram's horn, and with trumpets, and with cymbals, making a noise with bagpipes, skin bags, and lyres. And it came to pass, as the ark of the covenant of Yhwh came to the city of David, that Michal the daughter of Saul looking out at a window saw King David dancing and playing, and she despised him in her heart. So they brought the ark of Elohim, and set it in the middle of the tent that David had pitched for it, and they offered whole burnt offerings and peace offerings before Elohim. And when David had made an end of offering the whole burnt offerings and the peace offerings, he blessed the people in the name of Yhwh. And he apportioned to every one of Israel, both man and woman, to every one a loaf of bread, and a good piece of meat, and a flagon of wine. And he appointed certain of the Levites to minister before the ark of Yhwh, and to record, and to thank and praise Yhwh Elohim of Israel, Asaph the chief, and next to him Zechariah, Jael, Shemiramoth, Yehiel, Mattithiah, Eliab, Benaiah, Obededom, and Jael with bagpipes and with lyres, but Asaph made a sound with cymbals, Benaiah also and Jehaziel the priests with trumpets continually before the ark of the covenant of Elohim. Then on that day David delivered first this psalm to thank Yhwh into the hand of Asaph and his kinsmen. Give thanks to Yhwh, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the people. Sing to him, sing psalms to him, talk of all his wondrous works. Glory in his holy name, let the heart of them rejoice that seek Yhwh. Inquire of Yhwh and his strength, seek his presence continually. Remember his marvelous works that he has done, his wonders, and the judgments of his mouth, O you offspring of Israel his slave, you children of Jacob, his chosen ones. He is Yhwh our Elohim, his judgments are in all the earth. Be mindful always of his covenant, the word that he commanded to 1,000 generations, even of the covenant that he cut out with Abraham, and of his oath to Isaac, and has confirmed the same to Jacob for a law, and to Israel for an age-lasting covenant, saying, To you I will give the land of Canaan, the lot of your inheritance, when you were but few, even a few, and foreigners in it. And when they went from nation to nation, and from one kingdom to another people, he has not suffered any to oppress them, and rebuked on their account kings, saying, Touch not my anointed, and do my prophets no harm. Sing to Yhwh all the earth, show forth from day to day his salvation. Declare his glory among the nations, his marvelous works among all nations. Because great is YHWH, and greatly to be praised, he also is to be feared above all Elohim. Because all the Elohim of the people are idols, but YHWH fashioned the cosmos. Glory and honor are in his presence, strength and gladness are in his standing place. Give to YHWH, you clans of the people, give to YHWH glory and strength. Give to YHWH the glory due to his name, bring an offering, and come before him, worship YHWH in the glory of holiness. Tremble before him, all the earth, the world also will be established, that it be not dislodged. Let the cosmos be glad, and let the earth rejoice, and let people say among the nations, YHWH becomes king. Let the sea roar in its fullness thereof, let the fields rejoice and all that is therein. Then will the trees of the forest sing out at the presence of YHWH, because he comes to judge the earth. Oh, give thanks to YHWH, because he is good, because his goodness lasts for the ages. And say, save us, O Elohim of our salvation, and gather us together and deliver us from the nations so that we may give thanks to your holy name, and glory in your praise. Blessed is YHWH Elohim of Israel for the ages of ages. And all the people said, so be it, and praised YHWH. So he left there before the ark of the covenant of YHWH Asaph and his kinsmen, to minister before the ark continually, as every day's work required, and Obededom with their kinsmen, 68, Obededom also the son of Jeduthun and Hosea to be porters, and Zadok the priest, and his kinsmen the priests, before the tabernacle of YHWH in the high place that was at Gibeon, to offer whole burnt offerings to YHWH upon the altar of the burnt offering continually morning and evening, and to do according to all that is written in the Torah of YHWH that he commanded Israel, and with them Haman and Jeduthun, and the rest that were chosen, who were expressed by name, to give thanks to YHWH, because his goodness lasts for the ages, and with them Haman and Jeduthun with trumpets and cymbals for those that should make a sound, and with musical instruments of Elohim. And the sons of Jeduthun were porters. And all the people departed every person to their house, and David returned to bless his house. Now it came to pass as David sat in his house, that David said to Nathan the prophet, Look, I live in a house of cedars, but the ark of the covenant of YHWH remains under curtains. Then Nathan said to David, Do all that is in your heart, because Elohim is with you. And it came to pass the same night, that the word of Elohim came to Nathan saying, Go and tell David my slave, this is what YHWH declares, You will not build me a temple to live in, because I have not lived in a temple since the day that I brought up Israel to this day, but have gone from tent to tent, and from one dwelling place to another. Wherever I have walked with all Israel, spoke I a word to any of the judges of Israel, whom I commanded to feed my people, saying, Why have you not built me a house of cedars? Now therefore so will you say to my slave David, This is what YHWH of hosts declares, I took you from the pasture of sheep, even from following the sheep, that you should be ruler over my people Israel, and I have been with you wherever you have walked, and have cut off all your enemies from before you, and have made you a name like the name of the great men that are in the earth. Also I will appoint a standing place for my people Israel, and will plant them, and they will live in their place, and will be moved no more, neither will the children of wickedness waste them any more, as at the beginning, and since the time that I commanded judges to be over my people Israel. Moreover I will subdue all your enemies. Furthermore I tell you that, YHWH will build you a house. And it will come to pass, when your days are expired that you must go to be with your forefathers, that I will raise up your offspring after you that will be of your sons, and I will establish his kingdom. He will build me a temple, and I will establish his throne for the ages. I will be his father, and he will be my son, and I will not take my goodness away from him, as I took it from him that was before you, but I will settle him in my house and in my kingdom for the ages, and his throne will be established for the ages. According to all these words, and according to all this vision, so did Nathan speak to David.
And David the king came and sat before YHWH and said, Who am I, O YHWH Elohim, and what is my house, that you have brought me here?
And yet this was a small thing in your eyes, O Elohim, because you have also spoken of your servant's house for a great while to come, and have regarded me according to the estate of a man of high degree, O YHWH Elohim. What can David speak more to you for the honor of servant? Because you know your slave. O YHWH, for your servant's sake, and according to your own mind, you have done all this greatness in making known all these great things. O YHWH, there is none like you, neither is there any Elohim besides you, according to all that we have heard with our ears. And what one nation in the earth is like your people Israel, who Elohim went to ransom to be his own people, to make yourself a name of greatness and respect, by driving out nations from before your people, who you have rescued out of Egypt. Yes, you did appoint your people Israel to yourself for a people unto the age, and you, O YHWH, have been to them for Elohim. Therefore now YHWH, let the thing that you have spoken concerning your slave and concerning his house be established for the ages, and do as you have said. Let it even be established so that your name may be magnified for the ages, saying, YHWH of hosts is the Elohim of Israel, even an Elohim to Israel, and let the house of David your slave be established before you. Because you, O my Elohim, have told your slave that you will build him a temple, therefore your slave has found in his heart to pray before you. And now YHWH, you are Elohim, and have promised this goodness to your slave, now therefore let it please you to bless the house of your slave, that it may be before you for the ages, because you blessed O YHWH, and it will be blessed for the ages. Now after this it came to pass, that David struck the Philistines and subdued them, and captured Gath and its towns out of the hand of the Philistines. And he struck Moab, and the Moabites became David's slaves, and brought tribute. And David struck Hadarezer king of Zobah to Hamath, as he went to establish his dominion by the river Euphrates. And David took from him 1,000 chariots, and 7,000 horsemen, and 20,000 footmen. David also hamstrung all the chariot horses, but reserved of them 100 chariots. And when the Syrians of Damascus came to help Hadarezer king of Zobah, David killed of the Syrians 22,000 men. Then David put garrisons in Syria of Damascus, and the Syrians became David's slaves and brought gifts. So YHWH preserved David wherever he went. And David took the shields of gold that were on the slaves of Hadarezer, and brought them to Jerusalem. Likewise from Tibhath, and from Chun, cities of Hadarezer, David brought very much bronze in which Solomon fashioned the bronze sea, and the pillars, and the vessels of bronze. Now when Tou king of Hamath heard how David had beaten all the army of Hadarezer king of Zobah, he sent Hadoram his son to King David, to inquire of his welfare, and to congratulate him, because he had fought against Hadarezer and beaten him, because Hadarezer had war with Tou, and with him all types of vessels of gold, silver, and brass. These also King David dedicated to YHWH, with the silver and the gold that he brought from all these nations, from Edom and from Moab, and from the children of Ammon, and from the Philistines, and from Amalek. Moreover Abishai the son of Zeruiah killed of the Edomites in the valley of Salt 18,000. And he put garrisons in Edom, and all the Edomites became David's slaves. So YHWH preserved David wherever he went. So David reigned over all Israel, and executed judgment and justice among all his people. And Joab the son of Zeruiah was over the army, and Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilud, recorder. And Zadok the son of Ahitub, and Abimelech the son of Abiathar, were the priests, and Shapha was scribe, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada is over the Cherethites and the Pelathite, and the elder sons of David are in the hand of the king. Now it came to pass after this, that Nahash the king of the children of Ammon died, and his son reigned in his place. And David said, I will show kindness to Hanun the son of Nahash, because his dad showed kindness to me. And David sent messengers to comfort him concerning his dad. So the slaves of David came into the land of the children of Ammon to Hanun, to comfort him. But the princes of the children of Ammon said to Hanun, Do you think that David does honor your dad, that he has sent comforters to you? Are not his slaves coming to you for to search and to overthrow, and to spy out the land? Therefore Hanun took David's slaves and shaved them, and cut off their garments in the middle half by their buttocks, and sent them away. Then there went certain ones, and told David how the men were humiliated. And he sent to meet them, because the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, Remain at Jericho until your beards are grown, and then return. And the sons of Ammon saw that they had made themselves abhorred by David, and Hanun and the sons of Ammon sent 1,000 talents of silver, 37 tons, to hire for themselves from Aram Naharaim, and from Aram Makkah, and from Zobah, chariots and horsemen. So they hired 32,000 chariots, and the king of Makkah and his people, who came and camped before Medeba. And the children of Ammon gathered themselves together from their cities, and came to battle. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the army of the mighty men. And the children of Ammon came out, and put the battle in array before the gate of the city, and the kings that were come were by themselves in the field. Now when Joab saw that the battle was set against him before and behind, he chose out of all the choice of Israel, and put them in formation against the Syrians. And the rest of the people he delivered to the hand of Abishai his brother, and they set themselves in formation against the children of Ammon. And he said, If the Syrians are too strong for me, then you will help me, but if the children of Ammon are too strong for you, then I will help you. Be of good courage, and let us behave ourselves valiantly for our people, and for the cities of our Elohim, and let YHWH do what is good in his sight. So Joab and the people that were with him drew near before the Syrians to the battle, and they fled before him. And when the children of Ammon saw that the Syrians were fled, they likewise fled before Abishai his brother, and entered into the city. Then Joab came to Jerusalem. And when the Syrians saw that they were put to the worse before Israel, they sent messengers, and drew forth the Syrians that were beyond the river, and Shophak the captain of the army of Hadarezer went before them. And it was told David, and he gathered all Israel and passed over Jordan, and came upon them, and set the battle in formation against them. So when David had put the battle in formation against the Syrians, they fought with him. But the Syrians fled before Israel, and David killed of the Syrians 7,000 men that fought in chariots, and 40,000 footmen, and killed Shophak the captain of the army. And when the slaves of Hadarezer saw that they were put to the worse before Israel, they made peace with David and became his slaves, neither would the Syrians help the children of Ammon any more. And it came to pass, that after the year was expired, at the time that kings go out to battle, Joab led forth the power of the army and wasted the country of the children of Ammon, and came and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. And Joab struck Rabbah and destroyed it. And David took the crown of their king from off his head, and found it to weigh a talent of gold, 75 pounds, and there were precious stones in it, and it was set upon David's head, and he brought also exceeding much booty out of the city. And he brought out the people that were in it, and cut them with saws, and with sharp instruments of iron, and with axes. Even so dealt David with all the cities of the children of Ammon. And David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. And it came to pass after this, that there arose war at Gezer with the Philistines, at which time Sibbechai the Hushathite killed Sappai, that was of the children of the Rephaim, giants, and they were subdued. And there was war again with the Philistines, and Elhanan the son of Yair killed Lahmi the brother of Goliath the Gittite, whose spear staff was like a weaver's beam. And still again there was war at Gath, where was a man of great stature, whose fingers and toes were 24, 6 on each hand, and 6 on each foot, and he also was the son of the Rephaim, giants. But when he defied Israel, Jonathan the son of Shimeah David's brother killed him. These were born to the Rephaim, giants, in Gath, and they fell by the hand of David, and by the hand of his slaves. Then Satan stood up against Israel and provoked David to number Israel. And David said to Joab and to the rulers of the people, Go, number Israel from Beersheba even to Dan, and bring the number of them to me so that I may know it. But Joab answered, Yhwh make his people 100 times so many more as they are, but my master the king, are they not all my master's slaves? Why then does my master require this thing? Why will he be a cause of trespass to Israel? Nevertheless the king's word prevailed against Joab. Therefore Joab departed and went throughout all Israel, and came to Jerusalem. Then Joab gave the sum of the number of the people to David. And all they of Israel were 1,100,000 men that drew sword, and Judah was 470,000 men that drew sword. But Levi and Benjamin he counted not among them, because the king's word was detestable to Joab. And Elohim was displeased with this thing, therefore he struck Israel. And David said to Elohim, I have sinned greatly because I have done this thing, but now I beseech you, pass over the depravity of your slave, because I have done very foolishly. And Yhwh spoke to Gad, David's seer, saying, Go and tell David saying, This is what Yhwh declares, I offer you 3 things, choose one of them so that I may do it to you. So Gad came to David and said to him, This is what Yhwh declares, you choose either 3 years' famine or 3 months to be destroyed before your foes, while the sword of your enemies overtake you. Or else 3 days the sword of Yhwh, even the plague in the land, and the angel of Yhwh destroying throughout all the coasts of Israel. Now therefore advise yourself what word I will bring again to him that sent me. And David replied to Gad, I am in a great distress, let me fall now into the hand of Yhwh, because very great is his compassion, but let me not fall into the hand of man. So Yhwh sent a plague upon Israel, and there fell of Israel 70,000 men. And Elohim sent an angel to Jerusalem to destroy it, and as he was destroying, then Yhwh looked, and he repented himself of the bad, and said to the angel that destroyed, It is enough, stay now your hand. And the angel of Yhwh stood by the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David lifted up his eyes, and saw the angel of Yhwh stand between the land and the skies, having a drawn sword in his hand stretched out over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders of Israel, who were clothed in sackcloth, fell upon their faces. And David said to Elohim, Is it not I who commanded the people to be numbered? Even I it is that has sinned and done bad, but as for these sheep, what have they done? Let your hand, I pray O Yhwh my Elohim, be on me and on my father's house, but not on your people that they should be plagued. Then the angel of Yhwh commanded Gad to say to David, that David should go up, and set up an altar to Yhwh in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David went up at the saying of Gad that he spoke in the name of Yhwh. And Ornan turned back, and saw the angel, and his 4 sons with him hid themselves. Now Ornan was threshing wheat. And as David came to Ornan, Ornan looked and saw David and went out of the threshing floor, and bowed himself to David with his face to the ground. Then David said to Ornan, "Grant me the place of this threshing floor so that I may build an altar here to Yhwh, you will grant it me for its full price, that the plague may be restrained from the people." And Ornan said to David, "Take it to yourself, and let my master the king do what is good in his eyes. Lo, I give you the oxen also for whole burnt offerings, and the threshing instruments for wood, and the wheat for the grain offering, I give it all." But King David replied to Ornan, "No, but I will acquire it for its full price, because I will not take what is yours for Yhwh, nor offer whole burnt offerings without cost." So David gave to Ornan for the place 600 shekels, 15 pounds, of gold by weight. And David built there an altar to Yhwh, and offered whole burnt offerings and peace offerings, and called upon Yhwh, and he answered him from the skies by fire upon the altar of whole burnt offering. Then Yhwh commanded the angel, and he put up his sword back into its sheath. At that time when David saw that Yhwh had answered him in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite, then he sacrificed there. Because the tabernacle of Yhwh that Moses fashioned in the uninhabited land, and the altar of the whole burnt offering, were at that season in the high place at Gibeon. But David could not go before it to inquire, by Urim-Thummim, of Elohim, because he was afraid because of the sword of the angel of Yhwh. Then David said, "This is the house of Yhwh Elohim, and this is the altar of the whole burnt offering for Israel." And David commanded to gather together the sojourners that were in the land of Israel, and he set masons to cut and hew stones to build the temple of Elohim. And David prepared iron in abundance for the nails for the doors of the gates, and for the binders, and bronze in abundance without weight, also cedar trees in abundance, for the Zidonians and they of Tyre brought much cedar wood to David. And David said, "Solomon my son is young and tender, and the temple that is to be built for Yhwh must be exceedingly magnified, of fame and of glory throughout all countries. I will therefore now make preparation for it." So David prepared abundantly before his death. Then he called for Solomon his son, and charged him to build the temple for Yhwh Elohim of Israel. And David said to Solomon, "My son, as for me, it was in my mind to build a temple to the name of Yhwh Elohim, but the word of Yhwh came to me saying, You have shed blood abundantly and have made great wars, you will not build a temple to my name, because you have shed much blood upon the land in my sight. Look, a son will be born to you, who will be a man of rest, and I will give him rest from all his enemies all around, because his name will be Solomon, and I will give peace and quietness to Israel in his days. He will build a temple for my name, and he will be my son, and I will be his father, and I will establish the throne of his kingdom over Israel for the ages. Now my son, Yhwh be with you, and prosper you, and build the temple of Yhwh Elohim, as he has said of you. Only Yhwh give you insight and understanding, and give you charge concerning Israel so that you may observe the Torah of Yhwh Elohim. Then you will prosper, if you take heed to institute the statutes and judgments that Yhwh charged Moses with concerning Israel. Be strong and of good courage, fear not or be dismayed. Now behold, in my trouble I have prepared for the temple of Yhwh 100,000 talents, 3,750 tons, of gold, and 1,000,000 talents, 37,500 tons, of silver, and of bronze and iron without weight, because it is in abundance. Timber also and stone have I prepared, and you may add to it. Moreover there are workmen with you in abundance, cutters and workers of stone and timber, and all types of craftsmen for every kind of work. Of the gold, silver, bronze, and the iron, there is no number. Get up therefore and be working, and Yhwh is with you. David also commanded all the princes of Israel to help Solomon his son, saying, Is not Yhwh your Elohim with you? And has he not given you rest on every side? Because he has given the inhabitants of the land into my hand, and the land is subdued before Yhwh, and before his people. Now set your heart and your mind to seek Yhwh Elohim, arise therefore, and build the holy place of Yhwh Elohim, to bring the ark of the covenant of Yhwh, and the holy vessels of Elohim, into the temple that is to be built to the name of Yhwh. So when David was old and full of days, he made Solomon his son king over Israel. And he gathered together all the princes of Israel, with the priests and the Levites. Now the Levites were numbered from the age of 30 years and upward, and their number by their census, man by man, was 38,000. of which 24,000 were set to oversee the work of the temple of YHWH, and 6,000 were officers and judges. Moreover 4,000 were porters, and 4,000 praised YHWH with the instruments that I made, said David, to praise with. Then David divided them into courses among the sons of Levi, namely, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. Of the Gershonites were, Lodan and Shimei. The sons of Lodan, the chief was Yehiel, Zetham, and Joel, 3. The sons of Shimei, Shelemith, Hajel, Haran, 3. These were the chief of the fathers of Lodan. And the sons of Shimei were, Jahath, Zena, Jeish, and Beriah. These 4 were the sons of Shimei. And Jahath was the chief, and Ziza the second, but Jeish and Beriah had not many sons, therefore they were in one reckoning, according to their father's house. The sons of Kohath, Amram, Izhar, Hebron, Uzziel, 4. The sons of Amram, Aaron and Moses, and Aaron was separated so that he should consecrate the most holy things, he and his sons for the ages, to burn incense before YHWH, to minister to him and to bless in his name for the ages. Now concerning Moses the man of Elohim, his sons were named of the tribe of Levi. The sons of Moses were, Gershom, and Eliezer. Of the sons of Gershom, Shabuel was the chief. And the sons of Eliezer were, Rehabiah the chief. And Eliezer had no other sons, but the sons of Rehabiah were very many. Of the sons of Izhar, Shelemith the chief. Of the sons of Hebron, Jeriah the first, Amariah the second, Jahaziel the third, and Jekameam the fourth. Of the sons of Uzziel, Micah the first, and Jesiah the second. The sons of Merari, Mali, and Mushi. The sons of Mali, Eleazar, and Kish. And Eleazar died and had no sons, but daughters, and their kinsmen the sons of Kish carried them. The sons of Mushi, Mali, Eder, Jeremoth, 3. These were the sons of Levi after the house of their forefathers, even the chief of the fathers, as they were counted by number of names by their census, that did the work for the service of the house of YHWH, from the age of 20 years and upward. Because David said, YHWH Elohim of Israel has given rest to his people, that they may live in Jerusalem for the ages, and also to the Levites, they will no more carry the tabernacle, nor any vessels of it for its service. Because by the last words of David the Levites were numbered from 20 years old and above, because their office was to wait on the sons of Aaron for the service of the temple of YHWH, in the courts, and in the chambers, and in the cleansing of all holy things, and the work of the service of the temple of Elohim, both for the showbread, and for the fine flour for grain offering, and for the unleavened cakes, and for what is baked in the pan, and for what is fried, and for all types of measure and size, and to stand every morning to thank and praise YHWH, and likewise at sunset, and to offer all whole burnt offerings to YHWH on the Sabbaths, in the new moons, and on the set festivals, by number, according to the order commanded to them, continually before YHWH, and that they should observe the charge of the tabernacle at the appointed place, and the charge of the holy place, and the charge of the sons of Aaron their kinsmen, in the service of the temple of YHWH. Now these are the divisions of the sons of Aaron. The sons of Aaron, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Itamar. But Nadab and Abihu died before their dad, and had no children, therefore Eleazar and Itamar executed the priest's office. And David distributed them, both Zadok of the sons of Eleazar, and Ahimelech of the sons of Itamar, according to their offices and their service. And there were more chief men found of the sons of Eleazar than of the sons of Itamar, and so were they divided. Among the sons of Eleazar there were 16 chief men of the house of their forefathers, and 8 among the sons of Itamar according to the house of their forefathers. So were they divided by lot, one sort with another, for the governors of the sanctuary, and governors of the house of Elohim, were of the sons of Eleazar, and of the sons of Itamar. And Shemaiah the son of Nethaneel the scribe, one of the Levites, wrote them before the king, and the princes, and Zadok the priest, and Ahimelech the son of Abiathar, and before the chief of the forefathers of the priests and the Levites. One principal household being taken for Eleazar, and one taken for Itamar. Now the first lot came forth to Jehoiarib, the second to Jediah, the third to Haram, the fourth to Searim, the fifth to Malchijah, the sixth to Majamin, the seventh to Hakkoz, the eighth to Abiyah, the ninth to Jeshua, the 10th to Shechaniah, the 11th to Eliashib, the 12th to Joachim, the 13th to Hopa, the 14th to Jeshebeab, the 15th to Bilgah, the 16th to Immer, the 17th to Hezer, the 18th to Apses, the 19th to Pethiah, the 20th to Jezekel, the 21st to Jachin, the 22nd to Gamal, the 23rd to Delaiah, the 24th to Maaziah. These were the orderings of them in their service to come into the temple of YHWH, according to their ordinance, under Aaron their father, as Yhwh Elohim of Israel had commanded him. And the rest of the sons of Levi were these: of the sons of Amram, Shubael; of the sons of Shubael, Jedaiah. Concerning Rehabiah, of the sons of Rehabiah, the first was Ashiah. Of the Israelites, Shelemith; of the sons of Shelemith, Jahath. And the sons of Hebron, Jeriah the first, Amariah the second, Jahaziel the third, Jekameam the fourth. Of the sons of Uziel, Micah; of the sons of Micah, Shamir. The brother of Micah was Ashiah; of the sons of Ashiah, Zechariah. The sons of Merari were Mali and Mushi; the sons of Haziah, Beno. The sons of Merari by Haziah, Beno, Shoham, Zakur, and Ibri. Of Mali came Eleazar, who had no sons. Concerning Kish, the son of Kish was Jeremiel. The sons also of Mushi, Mali, and Eder, and Jeremoth. These were the sons of the Levites after the house of their forefathers. These likewise cast lots opposite their kinsmen the sons of Aaron in the presence of David the king, and Zadok, and Ahimelech, and the chief of the fathers of the priests and the Levites, even the principal fathers opposite their younger kinsmen. Moreover David and the captains of the host separated to the service of the sons of Asaph, and of Haman, and of Jeduthun, who should prophesy with lyres, with bagpipes, skin bag, and with cymbals, and the number of the workmen according to their service was, of the sons of Asaph, Zakur, and Joseph, and Nethaniah, and Azarlah, the sons of Asaph under the hands of Asaph that prophesied according to the order of the king. Of Jeduthun, the sons of Jeduthun, Gedaliah, Zeri, Jeshaiah, Hashabiah, Mattathiah, 6, under the hands of their father Jeduthun, who prophesied with a lyre, to give thanks and to praise Yhwh. Of Haman, the sons of Haman, Bechiah, Mattaniah, Uziel, Shabul, Jeremoth, Hananiah, Hanani, Eliathah, Gedalti, Romamtezer, Joshbekasha, Malathi, Hathir, and Mahazioth. All these were the sons of Haman the king's seer in the words of Elohim, to lift up the horn. And Elohim gave to Haman 14 sons and 3 daughters. All these were under the hands of their father for song in the temple of Yhwh, with cymbals, bagpipes, skin bag, and lyres, for the service of the temple of Elohim, according to the king's order to Asaph, Jeduthun, and Haman. So the number of them, with their kinsmen that were instructed in the songs of Yhwh, even all that were talented, was 288. And they cast lots, watch against watch, as well the small as the great, the teacher as the scholar. Now the first lot came forth for Asaph to Joseph, the second to Gedaliah, who with his kinsmen and sons were 12, the third to Zakur, he, his sons, and his kinsmen were 12, the fourth to Isri, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the fifth to Nethaniah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the sixth to Bechiah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the seventh to Jesharelah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the eighth to Jeshaiah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the ninth to Mattaniah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 10th to Shimei, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 11th to Azareel, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 12th to Hashabiah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 13th to Shubael, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 14th to Mattathiah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 15th to Jeremoth, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 16th to Hananiah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 17th to Joshbekasha, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 18th to Hanani, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 19th to Malathi, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 20th to Eliathah, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 21st to Hathir, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 22nd to Gedalti, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 23rd to Mahazioth, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12, the 24th to Romamtezer, he, his sons and his kinsmen were 12. Concerning the divisions of the porters, of the Korites was Meshelemiah the son of Kor, of the sons of Asaph. And the sons of Meshelemiah were, Zechariah the firstborn, Jediel the second, Zebediah the third, Jathniel the fourth, Elam the fifth, Jehohanan the sixth, Elionai the seventh. Moreover the sons of Obededom were, Shemaiah the firstborn, Jehozabad the second, Joah the third, and Sakhar the fourth, and Nethaniel the fifth, Amiel the sixth, Issachar the seventh, Pulthai the eighth, because Elohim blessed him. Also to Shemaiah his son were sons born, that ruled throughout the house of their father, for they were mighty men of valor. The sons of Shemaiah, Othni, Rephael, Obed, Elzabad, whose kinsmen were strong men, Elihu, and Semachiah. All these of the sons of Obededom, they and their sons and their kinsmen, able men for strength for the service, were 62 of Obededom. And Meshelemiah had sons and kinsmen, strong men, 18. Also Hosea, of the children of Merari, had sons, Simri the chief, for though he was not the firstborn, yet his father made him the chief, Helkiah the second, Tobaliah the third, Zechariah the fourth. All the sons and kinsmen of Hosea were 13. Among these were the divisions of the porters, even among the chief men, having watches opposite another, to minister in the temple of Yhwh. And they cast lots, as well the small as the great, according to the house of their forefathers, for every gate. And the lot eastward fell to Shelemiah. Then for Zechariah his son, a wise counselor, they cast lots, and his lot came out northward. To Obededom southward, and to his sons the house of Asuppim. To Shuppim and Hosea the lot came forth westward, with the gate Shalaketh, by the causeway of the going up, watch against watch. Eastward were 6 Levites, northward 4 a day, southward 4 a day, and toward Asuppim 2 by 2. At Parbar westward, 4 at the causeway, and 2 at Parbar. These are the divisions of the porters among the sons of Kor, and among the sons of Merari. And of the Levites, Ahijah was over the treasures of the house of Elohim, and over the treasures of the sacred things. As concerning the sons of Ladan, the sons of the Gershonite Ladan, chief fathers, even of Ladan the Gershonite, were Jeheli. The sons of Jeheli, Zetham, and Joel his brother, that were over the treasures of the house of Yhwh. Of the Amramites, and the Israelites, the Hebronites, and the Uzzielites, and Shabuel the son of Gershom, the son of Moses, was ruler of the treasures. And his kinsmen by Eliezer, Rehabiah his son, and Jeshaiah his son, and Joram his son, and Zitri his son, and Shelomith his son. That Shelomith and his kinsmen were over all the treasures of the sacred things that David the king, and the chief fathers, the captains over thousands and hundreds, and the captains of the host had consecrated. Out of the spoils won in battles did they consecrate to maintain the temple of Yhwh. And all that Samuel the seer, and Saul the son of Kish, and Abner the son of Ner, and Joab the son of Zeruiah, had consecrated, and whoever had consecrated anything, it was under the hand of Shelomith, and of his kinsmen. Of the Israelites, Kenaniah and his sons were for the external business over Israel, for officers and judges. And of the Hebronites, Hashabiah and his kinsmen, men of valor, 1,700, were officers among them of Israel on this side Jordan westward in all the business of Yhwh, and in the service of the king. Among the Hebronites was Jerijah the chief, even among the Hebronites, according to the generations of his fathers. In the 40th year of the reign of David they were demanded of, and there were found among them mighty men of valor at Yazer of Gilead. And his kinsmen, men of valor, were 2,700 chief fathers, whom King David made rulers over the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, for every matter pertaining to Elohim, and affairs of the king. Now the children of Israel after their number, the chief fathers and captains of thousands and hundreds, and their officers that served the king in any matter of the courses that came in and went out month by month throughout all the months of the year, of every course were 24,000. Over the first course for the first month was Jashobeam the son of Zabdiel, and in his course were 24,000. Of the children of Perez was the chief of all the captains of the host for the first month. And over the course of the second month was Dodai and Ahite, and of his course was Mikloth also the ruler, in his course likewise were 24,000. The third captain of the host for the third month was Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, a chief priest, and in his course were 24,000. This is that Benaiah, who was mighty among the 30, and above the 30, and in his course was Ammizabad his son. The fourth captain for the fourth month was Asahel the brother of Joab, and Zebadiah his son after him, and in his course were 24,000. The fifth captain for the fifth month was Shamhuth the Israelite, and in his course were 24,000. The sixth captain for the sixth month was Ira the son of Ikesh the Tekoite, and in his course were 24,000. The seventh captain for the seventh month was Helez the Pelonite, of the children of Ephraim, and in his course were 24,000. The eighth captain for the eighth month was Sibbecai the Hushathite, of the Zarites, and in his course were 24,000. The ninth captain for the ninth month was Abiezer the Anatothite, of the Benjamites, and in his course were 24,000. The 10th captain for the 10th month was Maharai the Netophathite, of the Zarites, and in his course were 24,000. The 11th captain for the 11th month was Benaiah the Pirathonite, of the children of Ephraim, and in his course were 24,000. The 12th captain for the 12th month was Heldai the Netophathite, of Othniel, and in his course were 24,000. Furthermore over the tribes of Israel, The ruler of the Reubenites was Eliezer the son of Zitri, of the Simeonites, Shephatiah the son of Makkah, of the Levites, Hashabiah the son of Kemuel, of the Aaronites, Zadok, of Judah, Elihu, one of the kinsmen of David, of Issachar, Omri the son of Michael, of Zebulun, Ishmaiah the son of Obadiah, of Naphtali, Jeremoth the son of Azriel, of the children of Ephraim, Hoshea the son of Azaziah, of the half-tribe of Manasseh, Joel the son of Pedaiah, of the half-tribe of Manasseh in Gilead, Edo the son of Zechariah, of Benjamin, Hasiel the son of Abner, of Dan, Azareel the son of Jeroham. These were the princes of the tribes of Israel. But David took not the number of them from 20 years old and under, because YHWH had said he would increase Israel like to the stars of the cosmos. Joab the son of Zeruiah began to number, but he did not finish, because there fell anger for it against Israel, neither was the number put in the account of the Chronicles of King David. And over the king's treasures was Asmaveth the son of Adiel, and over the storehouses in the fields, in the cities, and in the villages, and in the towers, was Jehonathan the son of Uzziah, and over them that did the work of the field for tillage of the ground was Esri the son of Chelub, and over the vineyards was Shimei the Ramathite, over the increase of the vineyards for the wine cellars was Zabdi the Shifmite, and over the olive trees and the sycamore trees that were in the low plains was Baalan the Gederite, and over the cellars of oil was Joash, and over the herds that fed in Sharon was Shatrai the Sharonite, and over the herds that were in the valleys was Shaphat the son of Adlai, over the camels also was Obal the Ishmaelite, and over the donkeys was Judea the Meronothite, and over the flocks was Jaziz the Hagarite. All these were the rulers of the property that was King David's. Also Jonathan David's uncle was a counselor, a wise man and a scribe, and Yehiel the son of Hachmoni was with the king's sons, and Ahithophel was the king's counselor, and Hushai the Archite was the king's companion, and after Ahithophel was Jehoiada the son of Benaiah, and Abiathar, and the general of the king's army was Joab. And David assembled all the princes of Israel, the princes of the tribes, and the captains of the companies that ministered to the king by course, and the captains over the thousands, and captains over the hundreds, and the stewards over all the property and possessions of the king, and of his sons, with the officers, and with the mighty men, and with all the valiant men, unto Jerusalem. Then David the king stood up upon his feet and said, Hear me, my kinsmen and my people. As for me, I had in my heart to build a house of rest for the ark of the covenant of YHWH, and for the footstool of our Elohim, and had made ready for the building. But Elohim said to me, You will not build a temple for my name, because you have been a man of war, and have shed blood. But YHWH Elohim of Israel chose me before all the house of my father to be king over Israel for the ages. Because he has chosen Judah to be the ruler, and of the house of Judah, the house of my father, and among the sons of my father he liked me to make me king over all Israel, and of all my sons, for YHWH has given me many sons, he has chosen Solomon my son to sit upon the throne of the kingdom of YHWH over Israel. And he said to me, Solomon your son, he will build my house and my courts, because I have chosen him to be my son, and I will be his father. Moreover I will establish his kingdom for the ages, if he is constant to do my commandments and my judgments, as at this day. Now therefore in the sight of all Israel the company of YHWH, and in the audience of our Elohim, keep and seek for all the commandments of YHWH your Elohim. That you may possess this good land, and leave it for an inheritance for your children after you for the ages. And you, Solomon my son, you know the Elohim of your dad, and serve him with a whole heart and with a willing mind. Because YHWH searches all hearts, and understands all the imaginations of the thoughts, if you seek him, he will be found of you, but if you forsake him, he will cast you off for the ages. Take heed now, because YHWH has chosen you to build a house for the sanctuary, be strong and do it. Then David gave to Solomon his son the pattern of the porch, and of its houses, and of its treasuries, and of its upper chambers, and of its inner parlors, and of the place of the covering lid, and the pattern of all that he had by the Spirit, of the courts of the temple of YHWH, and of all the chambers all around, of the treasuries of the temple of Elohim, and of the treasuries of the sacred things, also for the courses of the priests and the Levites, and for all the work of the service of the temple of YHWH, and for all the vessels of service in the temple of YHWH. He gave of gold by weight for things of gold, for all instruments of all types of service, silver also for all instruments of silver by weight, for all instruments of every kind of service, even the weight for the candlesticks of gold, and for their lamps of gold, by weight for every candlestick, and for its lamps, and for the candlesticks of silver by weight, both for the candlestick and also for its lamps, according to the use of every candlestick. And by weight he gave gold for the tables of showbread, for every table, and likewise silver for the tables of silver, also pure gold for the three-pronged fork, and the bowls, cups, and for the golden basins he gave gold by weight for every basin, and likewise silver by weight for every basin of silver, and for the altar of incense refined gold by weight, and gold for the pattern of the chariot of the cherubim, that spread out their wings, and covered the ark of the covenant of YHWH. All this said David, YHWH caused me to understand in writing by his hand upon me, even all the works of this pattern. And David said to Solomon his son, Be strong and of good courage, and do it. Fear not, or be dismayed, because YHWH Elohim, even my Elohim, will be with you, he will not fail you nor forsake you, until you have finished all the work for the service of the temple of YHWH. And behold, the courses of the priests and the Levites, even they will be with you for all the service of the temple of Elohim. And there will be with you for all types of workmanship every willing skillful man, for any kind of service, also the princes and all the people will be holy at your command. Furthermore David the king said to all the company, Solomon my son, who alone Elohim has chosen, is still young and tender, and the work is great, because the palace is not for man, but for YHWH Elohim. Now I have prepared with all my might for the temple of my Elohim the gold for things to be made of gold, and the silver for things of silver, and the bronze for things of bronze, the iron for things of iron, and wood for things of wood, onyx stones, and stones to be set, glistering stones, and of different colors, and all types of precious stones, and marble stones in abundance. Moreover, because I have set my affection to the temple of my Elohim, I have of my own proper good, of gold and silver that I have given to the house of my Elohim, over and above all that I have prepared for the holy house, even 3,000 talents, 110 tons, of the gold of Ophir, and 7,000 talents, 260 tons, of refined silver, to overlay the walls of the houses, the gold for things of gold, and the silver for things of silver, and for all types of work to be fashioned by the hands of artificers. And who then is willing to consecrate his service this day to YHWH? Then the chief of the fathers and princes of the tribes of Israel, and the captains of thousands and of hundreds, with the rulers of the king's work, offered willingly. And gave for the service of the temple of Elohim of gold 5,000 talents, 190 tons, and 10,000 drams, 185 pounds, and of silver 10,000 talents, 375 tons, and of bronze 18,000 talents, 675 tons, and 100,000 talents, 3,750 tons, of iron. And they with whom precious stones were found gave them to the treasury of the house of YHWH, by the hand of Jehiel the Gershonite. Then the people rejoiced, for that they offered willingly, because with a whole heart they offered willingly to YHWH, and David the king also rejoiced with great joy. Therefore David blessed YHWH before all the company, and David said, Blessed are you, YHWH Elohim of Israel our Father, for the ages of the ages. Yours O YHWH, is the greatness, and the power, and the glory, and the victory, and the majesty, because all that is in the cosmos and in the earth is yours. Yours is the kingdom O YHWH, and you are exalted as head above all. Both riches and honor come of you, and you reign over all, and in your hand is power and might, and in your hand it is to make great, and to give strength to all. Now therefore, our Elohim, we thank you, and praise your glorious name. But who am I, and what is my people, that we should be able to offer so willingly after this sort? For all things come from you, and of your own we have given you. Because we are newcomers before you, and sojourners, as were all our forefathers, our days on the earth are as a shadow, and there is no expectation. O YHWH Elohim, all this store that we have prepared to build you a temple for your holy name comes of your hand, and is all your own. I know also, my Elohim, that you examine the heart, and have pleasure in uprightness. As for me, in the uprightness of my heart I have willingly offered all these things, and now I have seen with joy your people that are present here, to offer willingly to you. O YHWH, Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, our forefathers, keep this to the age for the imagination of the thoughts of the heart of your people, and prepare their heart to you, and give to Solomon my son a complete heart, to observe your commandments, testimonies, and statutes, and to do all these things, and to build the temple for which I have made provision. And David said to all the company, Now bless YHWH your Elohim. And all the company blessed YHWH Elohim of their forefathers, and bowed down their heads, and worshipped YHWH, and the king. And they sacrificed sacrifices to YHWH, and offered whole burnt offerings to YHWH, on the next day following, even 1,000 young bulls, 1,000 rams, and 1,000 lambs, with their drink offerings, and sacrifices in abundance for all Israel, and did eat and drink before YHWH on that day with great gladness. And they made Solomon the son of David king the second time, and anointed him to YHWH to be the chief governor, and Zadok to be priest. Then Solomon sat on the throne of Yhwh as king instead of David his dad, and prospered, and all Israel obeyed him. And all the princes and the mighty men, and all the sons likewise of King David, submitted themselves to Solomon the king. And Yhwh magnified Solomon exceedingly in the sight of all Israel, and bestowed upon him such royal majesty as had not been on any king before him in Israel. So David the son of Jesse reigned over all Israel. And the time that he reigned over Israel was 40 years, 7 years he reigned in Hebron, and 33 years he reigned in Jerusalem. And he died in a good old age, full of days, riches, and honor, and Solomon his son reigned in his place. Now the acts of David the king, first and last, note, they are written in the book of Samuel the seer, and in the book of Nathan the prophet, and in the book of Gad the seer, with all his reign, his power, and the circumstances that transpired, on Israel, and on all the kingdoms of the lands. And Solomon the son of David was strengthened in his kingdom, and Yhwh Elohim was with him, and magnified him exceedingly. Then Solomon spoke to all Israel, to the captains of thousands and of hundreds, and to the judges, and to every governor in all Israel, the chief of the forefathers. So Solomon, and all the company with him, went to the high place that was at Gibeon, because there was the tabernacle at the appointed place of Elohim, which Moses the slave of Yhwh had fashioned in the uninhabited land. But the ark of Elohim had David brought up from Kiriath-Jearim to the place that David had prepared for it, because he had pitched a tent for it at Jerusalem. Moreover the bronze altar, that Bezaleel the son of Uri, the son of Hur, had fashioned, he put before the tabernacle of Yhwh, and Solomon and the company inquired about it. And Solomon went up there to the bronze altar before Yhwh, which was at the tabernacle at the appointed place, and offered 1,000 whole burnt offerings upon it. In that night did Elohim appear to Solomon and said to him, Ask what I will give you. And Solomon replied to Elohim, You have shown great kindness to David my dad, and have made me to reign in his place. Now, O Yhwh Elohim, let your promise to David my dad be established, because you have made me king over a people like the dust of the earth in multitude. Give me now wisdom and knowledge so that I may go out and come in before this people, because who can judge this your people, that is so great? And Elohim replied to Solomon, Because this was in your heart, and you have not asked riches, wealth or honor, neither the life of your enemies, neither yet have asked long life, but have asked wisdom and knowledge for yourself so that you may judge my people, over whom I have made you king. Wisdom and knowledge is granted to you, and I will give you riches, and wealth and honor, such as none of the kings have had that have been before you, neither will there any after you have the like. Then Solomon came from his journey to the high place that was at Gibeon to Jerusalem, from before the tabernacle at the appointed place, and reigned over Israel. And Solomon gathered chariots and horsemen, and he had 1,400 chariots and 12,000 horsemen that he placed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem. And the king made silver and gold at Jerusalem as plenteous as stones, and cedar trees made he as the sycamore trees that are in the lowland for abundance. And Solomon had horses brought out of Egypt and linen yarn. The king's merchants received the linen yarn at a price. And they came up, and brought out from Egypt a chariot for 600 shekels, 15 pounds, of silver, and a horse for 150, 3¾ pounds, and so for all the kings of the Hittites, and the kings of Aram, by their hand they brought out. And Solomon determined to build a temple for the name of Yhwh, and a house for his kingdom. And Solomon conscripted 70,000 men to bear burdens and 80,000 to cut stone in the mountain, and 3,600 to oversee them. And Solomon sent to Huram the king of Tyre saying, As you did deal with David my dad, and did send him cedars to build him a house to live in, even so deal with me. Behold, I build a temple to the name of Yhwh Elohim, to consecrate it to him, and to burn before him sweet incense, and for the continual showbread, and for the whole burnt offerings morning and evening, on the Sabbaths, and on the new moons, and in the appointed seasons of Yhwh our Elohim. This is appointed for the ages to Israel. And the temple that I build is great, because great is our Elohim above all Elohim. But who is able to build him a temple, seeing the skies and cosmos of the universe cannot contain him? Who am I then, that I should build him a temple, save only to burn sacrifice before him? Send me now therefore a man skilled to work in gold, silver, bronze, iron, and in purple, crimson, and blue, and knowing to engrave engravings with the wise men who are with me in Judah and in Jerusalem, who David my dad prepared. Send me also cedar trees, fir trees, and algum trees, out of Lebanon, because I know that your slaves have skill to cut timber in Lebanon, and note, my slaves will be with your slaves, even to prepare me timber in abundance, because the temple that I am about to build will be great and wonderful. And note, I will give to your slaves, the cutters that cut timber, 20,000 measures, 125,000 bushels, of beaten wheat, and 20,000 measures, 125,000 bushels, of barley, and 20,000 baths, 115,000 gallons, of wine, and 20,000 baths, 115,000 gallons, of oil. Then Huram the king of Tyre answered in writing, which he sent to Solomon, because YHWH has loved his people, he has made you king over them. Huram said moreover, Blessed is YHWH Elohim of Israel, that fashioned the cosmos and earth, who has given to David the king a wise son, endued with prudence and understanding, that might build a temple for YHWH, and a house for his kingdom. And now I have sent a skilled man, endued with understanding, of Huram my dad's, the son of a woman of the daughters of Dan, and his dad was a man of Tyre, skillful to work in gold, silver, bronze, iron, stone, timber, in purple, in blue, and in fine linen, and in crimson. Also to engrave any kind of engraving, and to find out every device that will be put to him, with your skilled men, and with the skilled men of Master David your dad. Now therefore the wheat, barley, oil, and the wine that my master has spoken of, let him send to his slaves, and we will cut wood out of Lebanon, as much as you will need, and we will bring it to you in floats by sea to Joppa, and you will carry it up to Jerusalem. And Solomon numbered all the sojourners that were in the land of Israel, after the numbering with which David his dad had numbered them, and they were found to be 153,600. And he set 70,000 of them to be bearers of burdens, and 80,000 to be cutters in the mountain, and 3,600 overseers to set the people at work. Then Solomon began to build the temple of YHWH in Jerusalem on Mount Moriah, where appeared YHWH to David his dad, in the place that David had prepared in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And he began to build on the 2nd day of the 2nd month, in the 4th year of his reign. Now these are the things in which Solomon was instructed for the building of the house of Elohim. The length by cubits after the first measure was 60 cubits, 90 feet, and its width 20 cubits, 30 feet. And the porch that was in the front of the house, the length of it was according to the width of the house, 20 cubits, 30 feet, and its height was 120, 180 feet, and he overlaid it within with pure gold. And the greater house he wainscoted with fir tree, which he overlaid with fine gold, and set on it palm trees and chains. And he garnished the temple with precious stones for beauty, and the gold was gold of Parvaim. He overlaid also the temple, its beams, posts, and its walls and doors with gold, and engraved cherubim on the walls. And he made the most holy place, its length was according to its width of the house, 20 cubits, 30 feet, and its width 20 cubits, 30 feet, and he overlaid it with fine gold, amounting to 600 talents, 23 tons. And the weight of the nails was 50 shekels, 1¼ pounds, of gold. And he overlaid the upper chambers with gold. And in the most holy place he fashioned 2 cherubim of image work, and overlaid them with gold. And the wings of the cherubim were 20 cubits, 30 feet, long, one wing of the one cherub was 5 cubits, 7½ feet, reaching to the wall of the house, and the other wing was also 5 cubits, 7½ feet, reaching to the wing of the other cherub. And one wing of the other cherub was 5 cubits, 7½ feet, reaching to the wall of the house, and the other wing was 5 cubits, 7½ feet, also, joining to the wing of the other cherub. The wings of these cherubim spread themselves out 20 cubits, 30 feet, and they stood on their feet, and their faces were inward. And he made the veil of blue, purple, and crimson, and fine linen, and designed cherubim on it. Also he made before the house 2 pillars of 35 cubits high, 52 feet, and the capital that was on the top of each of them was 5 cubits, 7½ feet. And he fashioned chains, as in the Holy of Holies, and put them on the heads of the pillars, and made 100 pomegranates, and put them on the chains. And he reared up the pillars before the temple, one on the right hand, and the other on the left, and called the name of that on the right hand Jachin, and the name of that on the left Boaz. Moreover he made an altar of bronze, 20 cubits, 30 feet, its length and width of it, and 10 cubits, 15 feet, its height. Also he made a cast metal sea of 10 cubits, 15 feet, from brim to brim, does encompass it all around, and 5 cubits, 7½ feet, its height, and a line of 30 cubits, 45 feet, did encompass it all around. And under it was the similitude of oxen that did encompass it all around, 10 to a cubit, 1½ feet, encompassing the sea all around. 2 rows of oxen were cast, when it was cast. It stood upon 12 oxen, 3 looking toward the north, and 3 looking toward the west, and 3 looking toward the south, and 3 looking toward the east, and the sea was set above upon them, and all their back parts were inward. And the thickness of it was a hand width, 3 inches, and the brim of it like the work of the brim of a cup, with flowers of lilies, and it received and held 3,000 baths, 17,500 gallons. He made also 10 lavers, and put 5 on the right hand, and 5 on the left, to wash in them, such things as they offered for the whole burnt offering they washed in them, but the sea was for the priests to wash in. And he made 10 candlesticks of gold according to their form, and set them in the temple, 5 on the right hand, and 5 on the left. He made also 10 tables, and placed them in the temple, 5 on the right side, and 5 on the left. And he made 100 basins of gold. Furthermore he made the court of the priests, and the great court, and doors for the court, and overlaid the doors of them with bronze. And he set the sea on the right side of the east end, opposite the south. And Huram fashioned the pots, shovels, and basins. And Huram finished the work that he was to make for King Solomon for the house of Elohim, to wit, the 2 pillars, and the pommels, and the capitals that were on the top of the 2 pillars, and the 2 wreaths to cover the 2 pommels of the capitals that were on the top of the pillars, and 400 pomegranates on the 2 wreaths, 2 rows of pomegranates on each wreath, to cover the 2 pommels of the capitals that were upon the pillars. He made also bases, and lavers he fashioned upon the bases, 1 sea, and 12 oxen under it. The pots also, and the shovels, and the 3-pronged fork, and all their instruments, did Huram his father fashion for King Solomon for the temple of Yhwh of bright bronze. In the plain of Jordan did the king cast them, in the clay ground between Succoth and Zeradatha. So Solomon fashioned all these vessels in great abundance, for the weight of the bronze could not be found out. And Solomon fashioned all the vessels that were for the temple of Elohim, the golden altar also, and the tables on which the showbread was set, moreover the candlesticks with their lamps, that they should burn after the manner before the Holy of Holies, of pure gold, and the flowers, and the lamps, and the tongs, he made of gold, and that in perfections of gold, and the snuffers, basins, spoons, and the censers of pure gold, and the entry of the temple, the inner doors for the most holy place, and the doors of the house of the temple, were of gold. So all the work that Solomon fashioned for the temple of Yhwh was finished, and Solomon brought in all the things that David his dad had consecrated, and the silver, gold, and all the instruments he put among the treasures of the house of Elohim. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel, and all the heads of the tribes, the chief of the forefathers of the children of Israel to Jerusalem, to bring up the ark of the covenant of Yhwh out of the city of David that is Zion. Therefore all the men of Israel assembled themselves to the king in the festival that was in the 7th month. And all the elders of Israel came, and the Levites took up the ark. And they brought up the ark, and the tabernacle at the appointed place, and all the sacred vessels that were in the tabernacle, these did the priests and the Levites bring up. Also King Solomon, and all the company of Israel that were assembled to him before the ark, sacrificed sheep and oxen that could not be told nor numbered for multitude. And the priests brought in the ark of the covenant of Yhwh unto its standing place, to the Holy of Holies in the temple, into its most holy place, even under the wings of the cherubim, because the cherubim spread out their wings over the standing place of the ark, and the cherubim covered the ark and its carrying poles. And they drew out the bar poles from the ark, that its ends of the poles were seen from the ark before the Holy of Holies, but they were not seen outside. And there it is to this day. There was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets that Moses put in it at Horeb, when Yhwh cut out a covenant with the children of Israel, when they came out of Egypt. And it came to pass, when the priests were come out of the holy place, because all the priests that were present were consecrated, and did not then guard by their course, also the Levites that were the singers, all of them of Asaph, of Haman, of Jeduthun, with their sons and their kinsmen, being arrayed in white linen, having cymbals and bagpipes, skin bags, and lyre, stood at the east end of the altar, and with them 120 priests sounding with trumpets. It came to pass, as the trumpeters and singers were as one, to make one sound to be heard in praising and thanking Yhwh, and when they lifted up their voice with the trumpets and cymbals and instruments of music, and praised Yhwh saying, For he is good, for his goodness is for the ages, that then the temple was filled with the cloud mass, even the temple of Yhwh, so that the priests could not stand to minister by reason of the cloud mass, because the glory of Yhwh had filled the house of Elohim. Then Solomon said, Yhwh has said that he would live in the dark cloud. But I have built a temple of residence for you, and an established place for your dwelling for the ages. And the king turned his face, and blessed the whole company of Israel, and all the company of Israel stood. And he said, Blessed is Yhwh Elohim of Israel, who has with his hands fulfilled what he spoke with his mouth to my dad David saying, Since the day that I brought forth my people out of the land of Egypt I chose no city among all the tribes of Israel to build a house in so that my name might be there. Neither chose I any man to be a ruler over my people Israel, but I have chosen Jerusalem so that my name might be there, and have chosen David to be over my people Israel. Now it was in the heart of David my dad to build a temple for the name of Yhwh Elohim of Israel. But YHWH said to David my dad, inasmuch as it was in your mind to build a temple for my name, you did well in that it was in your mind, notwithstanding you will not build the temple, but your son that will come out of your loins, he will build the temple for my name. YHWH therefore has performed his word that he has spoken, because I am risen up in the room of David my dad, and am set on the throne of Israel, as YHWH promised, and have built the temple for the name of YHWH Elohim of Israel. And in it have I put the ark, in which is the covenant of YHWH, that he cut out with the children of Israel. And he stood before the altar of YHWH in the presence of all the company of Israel, and spread out his hands, because Solomon had made a bronze scaffold, of 5 cubits long and wide, 7.5 feet, and 3 cubits high, 4.5 feet, and had set it in the middle of the court. And on it he stood, and kneeled down upon his knees before all the company of Israel, and spread out his hands toward the skies, and said, O YHWH Elohim of Israel, there is no Elohim like you in the cosmos or in the earth, which observes covenant, and shows goodness to your slaves, that walk before you with all their hearts, you that have observed with your slave David my dad what you have promised him, and spoke with your mouth, and have fulfilled it with your hand, as it is this day. Now therefore, O YHWH Elohim of Israel, observe with your slave David my dad what you have promised him, saying, there will not fail you a man in my sight to sit upon the throne of Israel. Yet so that your children take heed to their way to walk in my law, as you have walked before me. Now then, O YHWH Elohim of Israel, let your word be verified that you have spoken to your slave David. But will Elohim in very deed live with men on the earth? Behold, the skies and the cosmos of the universe cannot contain you, how much less this temple that I have built. Have respect therefore to the prayer of your slave, and to his supplication, O YHWH Elohim, to listen to the cry and the prayer that your slave prays before you, that your eyes may be open upon this temple day and night, upon this standing place in which you have said that you would put your name there, to listen to the prayer that your slave prays toward this standing place. Listen therefore to the supplications of your slave, and of your people Israel that they will make toward this standing place, hear from your standing place, even from the cosmos, and when you hear, forgive. If a man sin against his neighbor, and an oath is laid upon him to make him adjure, and the oath comes before your altar in this temple, then hear from the cosmos, and do, and judge your slaves, to give back to the wicked, to put his way on his head, and to declare righteous the righteous, to give to him according to his righteousness. And if your people Israel are put to the worst before the enemy, because they have sinned against you, and will return and confess your name, and pray and make supplication before you in this temple, then hear from the cosmos, and pardon the sin of your people Israel, and bring them back to the land that you gave to them and to their forefathers. When the sky is shut up, and there is no rain, because they have sinned against you, still if they pray toward this standing place, and confess your name, from their sin they turn back because you do afflict them, then hear from the cosmos and pardon the sin of your slaves, and of your people Israel, when you have taught them the good way in which they should walk, and send rain upon your land, that you have given to your people for an inheritance. If there is famine in the land, if there is plague, if there is blight, or mildew, swarms or locust, if their enemies besiege them in the cities of their land, whatever disease or whatever sickness there is, then what prayer or what supplication will be made from any person, or of all your people Israel, when everyone will know their own disease and their own grief, and will spread out their hands in this temple, then hear from the cosmos in your established place, and pardon, and render to everyone according to all their ways, whose heart you know, because you only know the hearts of the children of mankind, that they may fear you, to walk in your ways, so long as they live in the land that you gave to our forefathers. Moreover, concerning the foreigner that is not of your people Israel, but has come from a far country for your great name's sake, and your mighty hand, and your stretched out arm, if they come and pray in this temple, then hear from the cosmos, even from your established place, and do according to all that the foreigner calls to you for. So that all people of the earth may know your name, and fear you, as do your people Israel, and may know that this temple that I have built is called by your name. If your people go out to war against their enemies by the way that you will send them, and they pray to you toward this city that you have chosen, and the temple that I have built for your name, then hear from the cosmos their prayer and their supplication, and maintain their cause. If they sin against you, for there is no man that sins not, and you are angry with them, and deliver them over before their enemies, and they carry them away captives to a land far off or near, if they remember in the land where they are taken captive, and are regretful and make supplication to you in the land of their captivity, saying, We have sinned, we have committed depravity, and have acted wrongly. If they return to you with all their heart and with all their mind in the land of their captivity, where they have been carried captive, and pray toward their land that you gave to their forefathers, and toward the city that you have chosen, and toward the temple that I have built for your name, Then hear from the cosmos, even from your established place, their prayer and their supplications, and maintain their cause, and pardon your people that have sinned against you. Now, my Elohim, let I beseech you, your eyes be open, and let your ears be attentive to the prayers that are made in this standing place. Now therefore arise, O YHWH Elohim, into your resting place, you, and the ark of your strength. Let your priests, O YHWH Elohim, be clothed with salvation, and let your saints rejoice in goodness. O YHWH Elohim, turn not away the face of your anointed, remember the faithfulness of David your slave. Now when Solomon had made an end of praying, supernatural fire came down from the skies, and consumed the whole burnt offering and the sacrifices, and the glory of YHWH filled the temple. And the priests could not enter into the temple of YHWH, because the glory of YHWH had filled YHWH's house. And when all the children of Israel saw how the supernatural fire came down, and the glory of YHWH upon the temple, they bowed themselves with their faces to the ground upon the pavement, and worshipped and praised YHWH, saying, For he is good, because his goodness is for the ages. Then the king and all the people offered sacrifices before YHWH. And King Solomon offered a sacrifice of 22,000 oxen, and 120,000 sheep, so the king and all the people consecrated the temple of Elohim. And the priests waited on their offices, the Levites also with instruments of music of YHWH that David the king had made to praise YHWH, because his goodness is for the ages, when David praised by their ministry, and the priests sounded trumpets before them, and all Israel stood. Moreover Solomon consecrated the middle of the court that was before the temple of YHWH. Because there he offered whole burnt offerings, and the fat of the peace offerings, because the bronze altar that Solomon had fashioned was not able to receive the whole burnt offerings, and the tribute, and the fat. Also at the same time Solomon observed the festival 7 days, and all Israel with him, a very great company, from the entering in of Hamath to the river of Egypt. And in the 8th day they made a solemn assembly, because they instituted the consecration of the altar 7 days, and the festival 7 days. And on the 23rd day of the 7th month he sent the people away to their tents, glad and merry in heart for the goodness that YHWH had shown to David, and to Solomon, and to Israel his people. So Solomon finished the temple of YHWH, and the king's house, and all that came into Solomon's mind to make in the temple of YHWH, and in his own house, he prosperously effected. And YHWH appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard your prayer, and have chosen this standing place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up the sky so that there is no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or if I send plagues among my people, if my people that are called by my name will humble themselves, and pray, and seek my presence, and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from the cosmos, and will forgive their sin and will heal their land. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to the prayer that is made in this standing place. Because now I have chosen and consecrated this temple so that my name may be there for the ages, and my eyes and my heart will be there evening and morning. And as for you, if you will walk before me, as David your dad walked, and do according to all that I have commanded you, and will observe my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom, according as I have cut out, pledged, with David your dad saying, there will not fail you a man to be ruler in Israel. But if you turn away, and forsake my statutes and my commandments that I have set before you, and will go and serve other Elohim, and worship them, then I will pluck them up by the roots out of my land that I have given them, and this temple, which I have consecrated for my name, I will cast out of my sight, and will make it to be a proverb and a byword among all nations. And this house, which is high, will be an astonishment to everyone that passes by it, so that he will say, Why has YHWH done so to this land, and to this temple? And it will be answered, because they forsook YHWH Elohim of their forefathers that brought them out of the land of Egypt, and laid hold on other Elohim and worshipped them, and served them, therefore has he brought all this calamity upon them. And it came to pass at the end of 20 years, in which Solomon had built the temple of YHWH, and his own house, that the cities which Huram had restored to Solomon, Solomon built them, and caused the children of Israel to live there. And Solomon went to Hamath Zobah, and prevailed against it. And he built Tadmor in the wilderness, and all the store cities that he built in Hamath. Also he built Bethor the upper, and Bethor the lower, fenced cities, with walls, gates, and bars, and Baalath, and all the store cities that Solomon had, and all the chariot cities, and the cities of the horsemen, and all that Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, and in Lebanon, and throughout all the land of his dominion. As for all the people that were left of the Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and the Jebusites that were not of Israel, but of their children, who were left after them in the land, who the children of Israel consumed not, those did Solomon make to pay, tribute until this day. But of the children of Israel did Solomon make no slaves for his work, but they were men of war, and chief of his captains, and captains of his chariots and horsemen. And these were the chief of King Solomon's officers, even 250 that ruled over the people. And Solomon brought up the daughter of Pharaoh out of the city of David to the house that he had built for her. Because he said, My wife will not live in the house of David king of Israel, because those places are sacred, there the ark of YHWH has come. Then Solomon offered whole burnt offerings to YHWH on the altar of YHWH that he had built before the porch. Even after a certain rate every day, offering according to the commandment of Moses, on the Sabbaths, and on the new moons, and on the appointed seasons, 3 times in the year, even in the festival of unleavened bread, and in the festival of weeks, and in the festival of tabernacles. And he appointed, according to the order of David his dad, the courses of the priests to their service, and the Levites to their charges, to praise and minister before the priests, as the duty of every day required. The porters also by their courses at every gate, because so had David the man of Elohim commanded. And they departed not from the commandment of the king to the priests and Levites concerning any matter, or concerning the treasures. Now all the work of Solomon was prepared from the day of the foundation of the temple of YHWH, and until it was finished. So the temple of YHWH was completed. Then Solomon went to Eziongeber, and to Eloth, at the seaside in the land of Edom. And Huram sent him by the hands of his slave ships, and slaves that had knowledge of the sea, and they went with the slaves of Solomon to Ophir, and took from their 450 talents, 17 tons, of gold, and brought them to King Solomon. And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, she came to test Solomon with hard questions at Jerusalem, with a very great company, and camels that carried spices, and gold in abundance, and precious stones. And when she had come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her mind. And Solomon answered her all her questions, and there was nothing hidden from Solomon that he told her not. And when the queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon and the house that he had built, and the food of his table, and the sitting of his slaves, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, his cupbearers also, and their apparel, and his ascent by which he went up into the temple of YHWH, there was no more spirit in her. Then she said to the king, It was a true report that I heard in my own land of your acts and of your wisdom, but I believed not their words, until I came and my eyes had seen it, and, look, the one half of the greatness of your wisdom was not told me, because you exceeded the fame that I heard. Happy are your men, and happy are these your slaves that stand continually before you, and hear your wisdom. Let YHWH your Elohim be blessed who has delighted in you, to put you on his throne to be king for YHWH your Elohim, in the love of your Elohim to Israel, to establish it to the age. He has put you over them for king, to do judgment and righteousness. And she gave the king 120 talents, 4.5 tons, of gold, and of spices great abundance, and precious stones, neither was there any such spice as the queen of Sheba gave King Solomon. And the slaves also of Huram, and the slaves of Solomon that brought gold from Ophir, brought algum trees and precious stones. And the king made of the algum trees terraces to the house of YHWH, and to the king's palace, and lyres and bagpipes, skin bags, for the singers, and there were none such seen before in the land of Judah. And King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatever she asked, besides what she had brought to the king. So she returned, and went back to her own land, she and her slaves. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents, 25 tons, of gold, besides what merchants and traders brought. And all the kings of Arabia and governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon. And King Solomon made 200 shields of beaten gold, 600 shekels, 7.5 pounds, of beaten gold went to one shield. And 300 shields he made of beaten gold, 300 shekels, 3¾ pounds, of gold went to one shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover the king made a great throne of ivory, and overlaid it with pure gold. And there were 6 steps to the throne, with a footstool of gold, which were fastened to the throne, and stays on each side of the sitting place, and 2 lions standing by the stays, and 12 lions stood there on the one side and on the other upon the 6 steps. There was not the like made in any kingdom. And all the drinking vessels of King Solomon were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold, none were of silver, it was not anything accounted of in the days of Solomon. Because the king's ships went to Tarshish with the slaves of Huram, the ships of Tarshish came once every 3 years bringing gold, silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. And King Solomon surpassed all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. And all the kings of the earth desired the presence of Solomon, to hear his wisdom that Elohim had put in his mind. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver, and vessels of gold, and garments, weapons, spices, horses, and mules, a rate year by year. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, who he bestowed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem. And he reigned over all the kings from the river even to the land of the Philistines, and to the border of Egypt. And the king made silver in Jerusalem as stones, and cedar trees made he as the sycamore trees that are in the low plains in abundance. And they brought to Solomon horses out of Egypt, and out of all lands. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, are they not written in the book of Nathan the prophet, and in the prophecy of Ahijah the Shilonite, and in the visions of Iddo the seer against Jeroboam the son of Nebat? And Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. And Solomon slept with his forefathers, and he was buried in the city of David his dad, and Rehoboam his son reigned in his place. And Rehoboam went to Shechem, because to Shechem were all Israel come to make him king. And it came to pass, when Jeroboam the son of Nebat, who was in Egypt, where he had fled from the presence of Solomon the king, heard it, that Jeroboam returned out of Egypt. And they sent and called him. So Jeroboam and all Israel came and spoke to Rehoboam saying, Your dad made our yoke grievous, now therefore ease somewhat the grievous servitude of your dad, and his heavy yoke that he put upon us, and we will serve you. And he replied to them, Come back to me after 3 days. So the people departed. Then King Rehoboam took counsel with the old men that had stood before Solomon his dad while he still lived, saying, What counsel do you give me to return answer to these people? And they spoke to him saying, If you are kind to this people, and please them, and speak good words to them, they will be your servants for your lifetime. But he forsook the counsel that the old men gave him, and took counsel with the young men that were brought up with him, that stood before him. And he said to them, What advice do you give that we may return answer to these people that have spoken to me, saying, Ease somewhat the yoke that your dad did put upon us? And the young men that were brought up with him spoke to him, saying, So will you answer the people that spoke to you, saying, Your dad made our yoke heavy, but make it somewhat lighter for us? So will you reply to them, My little finger will be thicker than my dad's hips? Because, whereas my dad put a heavy yoke upon you, I will put more to your yoke. My dad disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam on the 3rd day, as the king commanded, saying, Come back to me on the 3rd day. And the king answered them roughly, and King Rehoboam forsook the counsel of the old men, and answered them after the advice of the young men, saying, My dad made your yoke heavy, but I will add to it. My dad disciplined you with whips, but I will discipline you with scorpions. So the king listened not to the people, because the cause was of Elohim, so that Yhwh might perform his word that he spoke by the hand of Ahijah the Shilonite to Jeroboam the son of Nebat. And when all Israel saw that the king would not listen to them, the people answered the king, saying, What portions have we in David? And we have no inheritance in the son of Jesse, everyone to your tents, O Israel, and now, David, see to your own house. So all Israel went to their tents. But as for the children of Israel that lived in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them. Then King Rehoboam sent Hadoram that was over the tribute, and the children of Israel stoned him with stones so that he died. But King Rehoboam made speed to get himself up to his chariot, to flee to Jerusalem. And Israel rebelled against the house of David to this day. And when Rehoboam was come to Jerusalem, he gathered of the house of Judah and Benjamin 180,000 chosen men, who were warriors, to fight against Israel, so that he might bring the kingdom back to Rehoboam. But the word of Yhwh came to Shemaiah the man of Elohim, saying, Speak to Rehoboam the son of Solomon, king of Judah, and to all Israel in Judah and Benjamin, saying, This is what Yhwh declares, You will not go up or fight against your kinsmen. Return every man to his house, because this thing is done by me. And they obeyed the words of Yhwh, and returned from going against Jeroboam. And Rehoboam lived in Jerusalem, and built cities for defense in Judah. He built even Bethlehem, Edom, Tekoa, Bethshur, Shoko, Adullam, Gath, Mareshah, Ziph, Adoraim, Lachish, Azekah, Zorah, Ayalon, and Hebron that are in Judah and in Benjamin fenced cities. And he fortified the strongholds, and put captains in them, and stores of food, and of oil and wine. And in every several city he put shields and spears, and made them exceedingly strong, having Judah and Benjamin on his side. And the priests and the Levites that were in all Israel resorted to him out of all their coasts. Because the Levites left their suburbs and their possession, and came to Judah and Jerusalem, because Jeroboam and his sons had cast them off from executing the priest's office to Yhwh, and he ordained himself priests for the high places, and for the Seder, and for the calves that he had fashioned. And after them out of all the tribes of Israel such as set their hearts to seek Yhwh Elohim of Israel came to Jerusalem, to sacrifice to Yhwh Elohim of their forefathers. So they strengthened the kingdom of Judah, and made Rehoboam the son of Solomon strong, 3 years, because for 3 years they walked in the way of David and Solomon. Then Rehoboam took himself Mahalath the daughter of Jeremoth the son of David to wife, and Abihail the daughter of Eliab the son of Jesse, which gendered him children, Jeish, Shemariah, and Zaham. And after her he took Maachah the daughter of Absalom, which gendered him Abiyah, Attai, Ziza, and Shelemith. And Rehoboam loved Maachah the daughter of Absalom above all his wives and his concubines, because he took 18 wives, and 60 concubines, and gendered 28 sons, and 60 daughters. Then Rehoboam made Abiyah the son of Maachah the chief, to be ruler among his kinsmen, because he thought to make him king. And he dealt wisely, and dispersed of all his children throughout all the countries of Judah and Benjamin, to every fenced city, and he gave them food in abundance. And he desired many wives. And it came to pass, when Rehoboam had established the kingdom, and had strengthened himself, he forsook the Torah of Yhwh and all Israel with him. And it came to pass, that in the 5th year of King Rehoboam Shishak king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem, because they had transgressed against Yhwh, with 1,200 chariots, and 60,000 horsemen, and the people were without number that came with him out of Egypt, the Lubims, Sukkiims, and the Ethiopians. And he took the fenced cities that pertained to Judah, and came to Jerusalem. Then Shemaiah the prophet came to Rehoboam, and to the princes of Judah, that were gathered together to Jerusalem because of Shishak, and said to them, This is what Yhwh declares, You have forsaken me, and therefore I have also left you in the hand of Shishak. Whereupon the princes of Israel and the king humbled themselves, and they said, Yhwh is righteous. And when Yhwh saw that they humbled themselves, the word of Yhwh came to Shemaiah saying, They have humbled themselves, therefore I will not destroy them, but I will grant them some deliverance, and my anger will not be poured out upon Jerusalem by the hand of Shishak. Nevertheless they will be as slaves, that they may know my service, and the service of the kingdoms of the countries. So Shishak king of Egypt came up against Jerusalem, and took away the treasures of the house of Yhwh, and the treasures of the king's house. He took all, he carried away also the shields of gold that Solomon had fashioned. In place of which King Rehoboam fashioned shields of bronze, and appointed them to the hands of the chief of the guard, that guarded the entrance of the king's house. And when the king entered into the house of Yhwh, the guard came and fetched them, and brought them back into the guard chamber. And when he humbled himself, the anger of Yhwh turned from him so that he would not destroy him altogether, and also in Judah things went well. So King Rehoboam strengthened himself in Jerusalem and reigned, because Rehoboam was 41 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 17 years in Jerusalem, the city that Yhwh had chosen out of all the tribes of Israel, to put his name there. And his mother's name was Naamah an Ammonitess. And he did bad, because he prepared not his heart to inquire of Yhwh. Now the acts of Rehoboam, first and last, are they not written in the book of Shemaiah the prophet, and of Iddo the seer concerning genealogies? And there were wars between Rehoboam and Jeroboam continually. Then Rehoboam slept with his forefathers, and was buried in the city of David, and Abiyah his son reigned in his place. Now in the 18th year of King Jeroboam began Abiyah to reign over Judah. He reigned 3 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Mishael the daughter of Uriel of Gibeah. And there was war between Abiyah and Jeroboam. And Abiyah set the battle in formation with an army of valiant men of war, even 400,000 chosen men. Jeroboam also set the battle in formation against him with 800,000 chosen men, being mighty men of valor. And Abiyah stood up upon Mount Zemaraim, which is in Mount Ephraim, and said, Hear me, you Jeroboam and all Israel, is it not for you to know that Yhwh, Elohim of Israel, has given the kingdom to David over Israel for the age, to him and to his sons, a covenant of salt. Still Jeroboam the son of Nebat, the slave of Solomon the son of David, is risen up, and has rebelled against his master. And there are gathered to him vain men, the children of Belial, worthless, and have strengthened themselves against Rehoboam the son of Solomon, when Rehoboam was young and tender-hearted, and could not withstand them. And now you think to withstand the kingdom of Yhwh in the hand of the sons of David, and you are a great multitude, and there are with you golden calves that Jeroboam fashioned for you as Elohim. Have you not cast out the priests of Yhwh, the sons of Aaron and the Levites, and have made yourself priests after the customs of the nations of other lands? So that whoever comes to consecrate himself with a young bull and 7 rams, the same may be a priest of them that are not Elohim. But as for us, Yhwh is our Elohim, and we have not forsaken him, and the priests that minister to Yhwh are the sons of Aaron and the Levites that attend to their business, and they sacrifice to YHWH every sunrise and every sunset whole burnt offerings and spice incense. The showbread also they set in order upon the clean table, and the candlestick of gold with its lamps, to burn every evening, because we observe the charge of YHWH our Elohim, but you have forsaken him. And behold, Elohim himself is with us for our captain, and his priests with sounding trumpets to cry alarm against you. O children of Israel, fight not against YHWH Elohim of your forefathers, because you will not prosper. But Jeroboam caused an ambush to come around behind them, so they were before Judah, and the ambush was behind them. And when Judah looked back, lo, the battle was before and behind, and they cried to YHWH, and the priests sounded with the trumpets. Then the men of Judah gave a shout, and as the men of Judah shouted, it came to pass, that Elohim struck Jeroboam and all Israel before Abijah and Judah. And the children of Israel fled before Judah, and Elohim delivered them into their hand, and Abijah and his people killed them with a great slaughter, so there fell down killed of Israel 500,000 chosen men. So the children of Israel were brought under at that time, and the children of Judah prevailed, because they relied on YHWH Elohim of their forefathers. And Abijah pursued after Jeroboam, and captured cities from him, Bethel with its towns, and Jeshanah with its towns, and Ephron with its towns. Neither did Jeroboam recover strength again in the days of Abijah, and YHWH struck him, and he died. But Abijah grew mighty and married 14 women, and gendered 22 sons and 16 daughters. And the rest of the acts of Abijah, and his ways and his sayings, are written in the story of the prophet Iddo. So Abijah slept with his forefathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Asa his son reigned in his place. In his days the land was quiet 10 years. And Asa did what was good and right in the eyes of YHWH his Elohim, because he took away the altars of the foreign Elohim, and the high places, and broke down the images, and cut down the groves, and commanded Judah to inquire of YHWH Elohim of their forefathers, and to institute the Torah and the commandment. Also he took away out of all the cities of Judah the high places and the images, and the kingdom was quiet before him. And he built fenced cities in Judah, because the land had rest and he had no war in those years, because YHWH had given him rest. Therefore he said to Judah, let us build these cities and make around them walls, towers, gates and bars, while the land is still before us, because we have sought YHWH Elohim, we have inquired of him, and he has given us rest on every side. So they built and prospered. And Asa had an army that carried shields and spears, out of Judah 300,000, and out of Benjamin, that carried shields and drew bows, 280,000, all these were mighty men of valor. And there came out against them Zerah the Ethiopian with an army of millions and 300 chariots, and came to Mareshah. Then Asa went out against him, and they set the battle in formation in the valley of Zephathah at Mareshah. And Asa cried to YHWH Elohim and said, YHWH, it is nothing with you to help, whether with many or with them that have no power, help us O YHWH Elohim, because we trust on you, and in your name we go against this multitude. O YHWH, you are our Elohim, let not man prevail against you. So YHWH struck the Ethiopians before Asa, and before Judah, and the Ethiopians fled. And Asa and the people that were with him pursued them to Gerar, and the Ethiopians were overthrown so that they could not recover themselves, because they were destroyed before YHWH, and before his host, and they carried away very much booty. And they struck all the cities all around Gerar, because the fear of YHWH came upon them, and they plundered all the cities, because there was exceedingly much booty in them. They struck also the tents of cattle, and carried away sheep and camels in abundance, and returned to Jerusalem. And the spirit of Elohim came upon Azariah the son of Oded, and he went out to meet Asa and said to him, Hear me Asa, and all Judah and Benjamin, YHWH is with you, while you are with him, and if you inquire of him, he will be found of you, but if you forsake him, he will forsake you. Now for a long season Israel has been without the true Elohim, and without a teaching priest, and without Torah. But when they in their trouble did turn to YHWH Elohim of Israel, and sought him, he was found of them. And in those times there was no peace to him that went out, nor to him that came in, but great vexations were on all the inhabitants of the countries. And nation was destroyed of nation, and city of city, because Elohim did vex them with all adversity. Be ye strong therefore and let not your hands be weak, because your work will be rewarded. And when Asa heard these words, and the prophecy of Oded the prophet, he took courage, and put away the detestable idols out of all the land of Judah and Benjamin, and out of the cities that he had taken from Mount Ephraim, and renewed the altar of YHWH that was before the porch of YHWH. And he gathered all Judah and Benjamin, and the sojourners with them out of Ephraim and Manasseh, and out of Simeon, because they fell to him out of Israel in abundance, when they saw that Yhwh Elohim was with him. So they gathered themselves together at Jerusalem in the 3rd month, in the 15th year of the reign of Asa. And they offered to Yhwh the same time, of the plunder that they had brought, 700 oxen and 7,000 sheep. And they entered into a covenant to inquire of Yhwh Elohim of their forefathers with all their heart and with their entire mind, that whoever would not inquire of Yhwh Elohim of Israel should be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. And they adjured to Yhwh with a loud voice, and with shouting and with trumpets, and with ram's horn. And all Judah rejoiced at the oath, because they had adjured with their entire mind, and sought him with their whole desire, and he was found of them, and Yhwh gave them rest all around. And also concerning Maacah the mother of Asa the king, he removed her from being queen, because she had made an idol in a grove, and Asa cut down her idol, and stamped it, and burned it at the wadi of Kidron. But the high places, cultic platforms, were not taken away out of Israel, nevertheless the heart of Asa was whole all his days. And he brought into the temple of Elohim the things that his dad had dedicated, and that he himself had dedicated, silver, and gold, and vessels. And there was no more war to the 35th year of the reign of Asa. In the 36th year of the reign of Asa Baasha king of Israel came up against Judah, and built Ramah, to the intent that he might let none go out or come into Asa king of Judah. Then Asa brought out silver and gold out of the treasury of the house of Yhwh and of the king's house, and sent to Benhadad king of Syria, that lived at Damascus, saying, There is a league between me and you, as there was between my dad and your dad. Look, I have sent you silver and gold. Go, break your league with Baasha king of Israel so that he may depart from me. And Benhadad listened to King Asa, and sent the captains of his armies against the cities of Israel, and they struck Ijon, and Dan, and Abel-maim, and all the storage cities of Naphtali. And it came to pass, when Baasha heard it, that he quit the building of Ramah, and let his work cease. Then Asa the king took all Judah, and they carried away the stones of Ramah, and its timber that Baasha was building with, and he built with it Geba and Mizpah. And at that time Hanani the seer came to Asa king of Judah, and said to him, Because you have relied on the king of Syria, and not relied on Yhwh Elohim, therefore is the army of the king of Syria escaped out of your hand. Were not the Ethiopians and the Lubims a huge army, with very many chariots and horsemen? Still, because you did rely on Yhwh, he delivered them into your hand. Because the eyes of Yhwh run to and fro throughout the whole land, to show himself strong in the behalf of them whose heart is whole toward him. But you have done foolishly, therefore from now on you will have wars. Then Asa was angry with the seer, and put him in a prison compound, because he was in a rage with him because of this thing. And Asa oppressed some of the people at that same time. And behold, the acts of Asa, first and last, lo, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Asa in the 39th year of his reign became diseased in his feet, until his disease was exceedingly great. Still in his disease he inquired not to Yhwh, but to the physicians. Then Asa slept with his forefathers, and died in the 41st year of his reign. And they buried him in his own tomb that he had made for himself in the city of David, and laid him in the bed that was filled with sweet smells and different kinds of spices, prepared by the apothecary's art, and they burnt a very great burning for him. And Jehoshaphat his son reigned in his place, and strengthened himself against Israel. And he placed forces in all the fenced cities of Judah, and set garrisons in the land of Judah, and in the cities of Ephraim that Asa his dad had captured. And Yhwh was with Jehoshaphat, because he walked in the first ways of his ancestor David, and sought not to Baalim, but inquired of Elohim of his father, and walked in his commandments, and not after the deeds of Israel. Therefore Yhwh established the kingdom in his hand, and all Judah brought to Jehoshaphat presents, and he had riches and honor in abundance. And his heart was lifted up in the ways of Yhwh, moreover he removed the high places and groves out of Judah. Also in the 3rd year of his reign he sent to his princes, even to Ben-Hail, Obadiah, Zechariah, Nethaniel, and to Mishael, to teach in the cities of Judah. And with them he sent Levites, even Shemaiah, Nethaniah, Zebediah, Asahel, Shemiramoth, Jehonathan, Adonijah, Tobijah, and Tobadonijah, Levites, and with them Elishama and Jehoram, priests. And they taught in Judah, and had the book of the Torah of Yhwh with them, and went about throughout all the cities of Judah, and taught the people. And the fear of Yhwh fell upon all the kingdoms of the lands that were all around Judah, so that they made no war against Jehoshaphat. Also some of the Philistines brought Jehoshaphat presents, and tribute silver, and the Arabians brought him flocks, 7,700 rams, and 7,700 he-goats. And Jehoshaphat grew exceedingly great, and he built in Judah castles, and cities of storage. And he had much business in the cities of Judah, and the men of war, mighty men of valor were in Jerusalem. And these are the numbers of them according to the house of their forefathers, of Judah, the captains of thousands, Adnah the chief, and with him mighty men of valor 300,000. And next to him was Jehohanan the captain, and with him 280,000. And next to him was Amasiah the son of Zichri, who willingly offered himself to YHWH, and with him 200,000 mighty men of valor. And of Benjamin, Eliada a mighty man of valor, and with him armed men with bow and shield 200,000. And next to him was Jehozabad, and with him 180,000 ready and prepared for the war. These waited on the king, beside those whom the king put in the fenced cities throughout all Judah. Now Jehoshaphat had riches and honor in abundance, and became related by marriage with Ahab. And after a number of years he went down to Ahab to Samaria. And Ahab killed sheep and oxen for him in abundance, and for the people that he had with him, and persuaded him to go up with him to Ramoth-Gilead. And Ahab king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat king of Judah, Will you go with me to Ramoth-Gilead? And he answered him, I am as you are, and my people is your people, and we will be with you in the war. And Jehoshaphat said to the king of Israel, Inquire, I ask you at the word of YHWH today. Therefore the king of Israel gathered together of the prophets 400 men, and said to them, Will we go to Ramoth-Gilead to battle or will I forbear? And they said, Go up, because Elohim will deliver it into the king's hand. But Jehoshaphat said, Is there not here a prophet of YHWH besides these that we might inquire of him? And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, There is still one man, by whom we may inquire of YHWH, but I hate him, because he never prophesied good to me, but always bad, the same as Micaiah the son of Imlah. But Jehoshaphat replied, Let not the king say so. Then the king of Israel called for one of his officers and said, Fetch quickly Micaiah the son of Imlah. And the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat king of Judah sat either of them on his throne, clothed in their robes, and they sat on a threshing floor at the entering in of the gate of Samaria, and all the prophets prophesied before them. And Zedekiah the son of Chenaanah had made him horns of iron and said, So says YHWH, With these you will push Syria until they are consumed. And all the prophets prophesied so saying, Go up to Ramoth-Gilead and prosper, because YHWH will deliver it into the hand of the king. And the messenger that went to call Micaiah spoke to him saying, See, the words of the prophets declare good to the king with one consent, let your word therefore I ask you, be like one of theirs, and speak you, good. But Micaiah replied, As YHWH lives, even what my Elohim declares, that I will speak. And when he had come to the king said to him, Micaiah, will we go to Ramoth-Gilead to battle, or will I forbear? And he replied, Go up and prosper, and they will be delivered into your hand. But the king replied to him, How many times will I adjure you that you say nothing but the truth to me in the name of YHWH? Then he said, I did see all Israel scattered upon the mountains, as sheep that have no shepherd, and YHWH said, These have no master, let them return therefore every man to his house in peace. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, Did I not tell you that he would not prophesy good to me, but bad? Again he said, Therefore hear the word of YHWH, I saw YHWH sitting upon his throne, and all the host of the cosmos standing on his right hand and on his left. And YHWH said, Who will entice Ahab king of Israel so that he may go up and fall at Ramoth-Gilead? And one spoke saying after this manner and another saying after that manner. Then there came out a spirit, and stood before YHWH, and said, I will entice him. And YHWH said to him, How? And he replied, I will go out and be a lying spirit in the mouth of all his prophets. And he replied, You will entice him, and you will also prevail, go out and do so. Now therefore, behold, YHWH has put a lying spirit in the mouth of these your prophets, and YHWH has spoken bad against you. Then Zedekiah the son of Chenaanah came near, and struck Micaiah on the cheek and said, Which way went the spirit of YHWH from me to speak to you? And Micaiah replied, Behold, you will see on that day when you will go into an inner chamber to hide yourself. Then the king of Israel said, Take Micaiah and carry him back to Amon the governor of the city, and to Joash the king's son, and say, This is what the king commands, put this man in the prison, and feed him with bread of affliction and with water of affliction, until I return in peace. Then Micaiah replied, If you certainly return in peace, then YHWH has not spoken by me. And he said, Listen, all you people. So the king of Israel and Jehoshaphat the king of Judah went up to Ramoth-Gilead. And the king of Israel said to Jehoshaphat, I will disguise myself and will go to the battle, but you put on your robes. So the king of Israel disguised himself, and they went to the battle. Now the king of Syria had commanded the captains of the chariots that were with him saying, Fight not with small or great, except only with the king of Israel. And it came to pass, when the captains of the chariots saw Jehoshaphat, that they said, It is the king of Israel. Therefore they surrounded him to fight, but Jehoshaphat cried out and Yhwh helped him, and Elohim moved them to depart from him. Because it came to pass, that when the captains of the chariots perceived that it was not the king of Israel, they turned back again from pursuing him. And a man had drawn with a bow, in his simplicity, and struck the king of Israel between the joints and the coat of mail, and he said to the charioteer, Turn your hand, and you have brought me out of the camp, because I have become sick. And the battle increased that day, but the king of Israel propped himself up in his chariot against the Syrians until sunset, and about the time of its setting he died. And Jehoshaphat the king of Judah returned to his house in peace to Jerusalem. And Jehu the son of Hanani the seer went out to meet him, and said to King Jehoshaphat, Should you help the ungodly, and love them that hate Yhwh? And for this against you is anger from before Yhwh, nevertheless there are good things found in you, in that you have taken away the groves out of the land, and have prepared your heart to inquire of Elohim. And Jehoshaphat lived at Jerusalem, and he went out again through the people from Beersheba to Mount Ephraim, and brought them back to Yhwh Elohim of their forefathers. And he set judges in the land throughout all the fenced cities of Judah, city by city, and said to the judges, Take heed what you do, because you judge not for man, but for Yhwh, who is with you in the judgment. Therefore now let the fear of Yhwh be upon you, take heed and do it, because there is no wrong with Yhwh Elohim, nor respect of persons, nor taking of gifts. Moreover in Jerusalem did Jehoshaphat set of the Levites, and of the priests, and of the chief of the fathers of Israel, because for the judgment of Yhwh, and for disputes, when they returned to Jerusalem. And he charged them saying, So will you do in the fear of Yhwh, faithfully, and with a whole heart. And whatever cause will come to you of your kinsmen that live in their cities, between blood and blood, between law and commandment, statutes and judgments, you will even warn them that they trespass not against Yhwh, and so anger comes upon you, and upon your kinsmen. This do, and you will not trespass. And behold, Amariah the chief priest is over you in all matters of Yhwh, and Zebadiah the son of Ishmael, the ruler of the house of Judah, for all the king's matters, also the Levites will be officers before you. Deal courageously, and Yhwh will be with the good. It came to pass after this also, that the children of Moab and the children of Ammon, and with them others besides the Ammonites, came against Jehoshaphat to battle. Then there came some that told Jehoshaphat saying, There comes a great multitude against you from beyond the sea on this side Syria, and behold, they are in Hazazon Tamar, that is En-gedi. And Jehoshaphat feared, and set himself to inquire of Yhwh, and proclaimed a fast throughout all Judah. And Judah gathered themselves together, to ask help of Yhwh, even out of all the cities of Judah they came to seek Yhwh. Then Jehoshaphat stood in the company of Judah and Jerusalem, in the temple of Yhwh, before the new court, and said, O Yhwh Elohim of our forefathers, are not you Elohim in the cosmos? And rule you not over all the kingdoms of the nations? And in your hand is there not power and might, so that none are able to withstand you? Are you not our Elohim, who did drive out the inhabitants of this land before your people Israel, and gave it to the descendants of Abraham your friend for the ages? And they live there, and have built you a sanctuary for your name, saying, If, when bad comes upon us, as the sword, judgment, plague or famine, we stand before this temple, and in your presence, because your name is in this house, and cry to you in our affliction, then you will hear and help. And now, look, the children of Ammon and Moab and Mount Seir, who you would not let Israel invade, when they came out of the land of Egypt, but they turned from them and destroyed them not, observe, I say, how they reward us, to come to cast us out of your possession that you have given us to inherit. O our Elohim, will you not judge them? Because we have no might against this great company that comes against us, neither know we what to do, but our eyes are on you. And all Judah stood before Yhwh, with their little ones, their women and their children. Then upon Jahaziel the son of Zechariah, the son of Benaiah, the son of Jael, the son of Mattaniah, a Levite of the sons of Asaph, came the spirit of Yhwh in the midst of the company, and he said, Listen all Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem, and King Jehoshaphat, this is what Yhwh declares to you, Be not afraid nor dismayed by reason of this great multitude, because the battle is not yours, but Elohim's. Tomorrow go down against them, behold, they come up by the cliff of Ziz, and you will find them at the end of the brook, before the wilderness of Jeruel. You will not need to fight in this battle, set yourselves, stand still, and see the salvation of Yhwh with you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Fear not nor be dismayed, tomorrow go out against them, because YHWH will be with you. Then Jehoshaphat bowed his head with his face to the ground, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem fell before YHWH, worshipping YHWH. And the Levites, of the children of the Kohathites, and of the children of the Korites, stood up to praise YHWH Elohim of Israel with a loud voice on higher ground. And they rose early in the morning, and went out into the wilderness of Tekoa. And as they went out, Jehoshaphat stood and said, Hear me, O Judah, and you inhabitants of Jerusalem, believe in YHWH Elohim, so will you be established, believe his prophets, so you will prosper. And when he had consulted with the people, he appointed singers to YHWH, and that should praise the beauty of holiness, as they went out before the army, and to say, Praise YHWH, because his goodness is for the ages. And when they began to sing and to praise, YHWH set ambushes against the children of Ammon, Moab, and Mount Seir, which were come against Judah, and they were struck down. Because the children of Ammon and Moab stood up against the inhabitants of Mount Seir, utterly to kill and destroy them, and when they had made an end of the inhabitants of Seir, everyone helped to destroy another. And when Judah came toward the watchtower in the wilderness, they looked to the multitude, and behold, there were dead bodies fallen to the ground and none escaped. And when Jehoshaphat and his people came to remove the booty of them, they found among them in abundance both riches with the dead bodies, and precious jewels that they stripped off for themselves, more than they could carry away. And they were 3 days in gathering of the plunder because it was so much. And on the 4th day they assembled themselves in the valley of Brahah, for there they blessed YHWH, therefore the name of the same place was called, the valley of Brahah to this day. Then they returned, every man of Judah and Jerusalem and Jehoshaphat in the forefront of them, to go again to Jerusalem with joy, because YHWH had made them to rejoice over their enemies. And they came to Jerusalem with bagpipes, skin bags, and lyres and trumpets to the temple of YHWH. And the fear of Elohim was on all the kingdoms of those countries, when they had heard that YHWH fought against the enemies of Israel. So the realm of Jehoshaphat was quiet, because his Elohim gave him rest all around. Then Jehoshaphat reigned over Judah. He was 35 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 25 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Azubah the daughter of Shilhi. And he walked in the way of Asa his dad, and departed not from it, doing what was right in the sight of YHWH. But the high places were not taken away, for as yet the people had not prepared their hearts to the Elohim of their forefathers. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoshaphat, first and last, note, they are written in the book of Jehu the son of Hanani, who is mentioned in the book of the kings of Israel. And after this did Jehoshaphat king of Judah join himself with Ahaziah king of Israel, who did very wickedly, and he joined himself with him to make ships to go to Tarshish, and they made the ships in Eziongeber. Then Eliezer the son of Dodavah of Mareshah prophesied against Jehoshaphat saying, Because you have joined yourself with Ahaziah, YHWH has broken your works. And the ships were broken so that they were not able to go to Tarshish. Now Jehoshaphat slept with his forefathers, and was buried with his ancestors in the city of David. And Jehoram his son reigned in his place. And he had kinsmen the sons of Jehoshaphat, Azariah, Jehiel, Zechariah, Azariah, Michael, and Shephatiah, all these were the sons of Jehoshaphat king of Israel. And their dad gave them great gifts of silver, gold, and of precious things, with fenced cities in Judah, but the kingdom gave he to Jehoram, because he was the firstborn. Now when Jehoram was risen up to the kingdom of his dad, he strengthened himself, and killed all his brothers with the sword, and also of the princes of Israel. Jehoram was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 8 years in Jerusalem. And he walked in the way of the kings of Israel, like as did the house of Ahab, because he had the daughter of Ahab to wife, and he did what was bad in the eyes of YHWH. But YHWH would not destroy the house of David, because of the covenant that he had cut out with David, and as he promised to give a light to him and to his sons for the ages. In his days the Edomites revolted from under the rule of Judah, and made themselves a king. Then Jehoram went out with his princes, and all his chariots with him, and he rose up by night, and struck the Edomites that compassed him in, and the captains of the chariots. So the Edomites revolted from under the hand of Judah to this day. The same time also did Libnah revolt from under his hand, because he had forsaken YHWH Elohim of his forefathers. Moreover he made high places in the mountains of Judah, and caused the inhabitants of Jerusalem to commit cult prostitution, and compelled Judah also. And there came a writing to him from Elijah the prophet saying, This is what YHWH Elohim of David your forefather declares, because you have not walked in the ways of Jehoshaphat your father, nor in the ways of Asa king of Judah, but have walked in the way of the kings of Israel, and have made Judah and its inhabitants of Jerusalem to go a whoring, like the prostitution of the house of Ahab, and also have killed your brothers of your dad's house, that were better than yourself. Look, with a great plague will YHWH strike your people, and your children, and your wives, and all your goods, and you will have great sickness by disease of your bowels, until your bowels fall out by reason of the sickness day by day. Moreover YHWH stirred up against Jehoram the spirit of the Philistines, and of the Arabians, that were near the Ethiopians, and they came up into Judah, and broke into it, and carried away all the substance that was found in the king's house, and his sons also, and his wives, so that there was never a son left him, except Jehoahaz, the youngest of his sons. And after all this YHWH struck him in his bowels with an incurable disease. And it came to pass, that in process of time, after the end of 2 years, his bowels fell out by reason of his sickness, so he died of a malignant disease. And his people made no burning for him, like the burning of his ancestors. He was 32 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 8 years, and departed without being desired. But they buried him in the city of David, but not in the tombs of the kings. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah his youngest son king in his place, because the band of men that came with the Arabians to the camp had killed all the eldest. So Ahaziah the son of Jehoram king of Judah reigned. He was 42 years old when Ahaziah began to reign, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Athaliah the daughter of Omri. He also walked in the ways of the house of Ahab, because his mother was his counselor to do wickedly. Therefore he did bad in the sight of YHWH like the house of Ahab, because they were his counselors after the death of his dad to his destruction. He walked also after their counsel, and went with Jehoram the son of Ahab king of Israel to war against Hazael king of Syria at Ramoth-Gilead, and the Syrians struck Joram. And he returned to be healed in Jezreel because of the wounds that were given him at Ramah, when he fought with Hazael king of Syria. And Azariah the son of Jehoram king of Judah went down to see Jehoram the son of Ahab at Jezreel, because he was sick. And the destruction of Ahaziah was of Elohim by coming to Joram, because when he was come, he went out with Jehoram against Jehu the son of Nimshi, who YHWH had anointed to cut off the house of Ahab. And it came to pass that when Jehu was executing judgment upon the house of Ahab, and found the princes of Judah, and the sons of the brothers of Ahaziah, that ministered to Ahaziah, he killed them. And he sought Ahaziah, and they caught him, because he was hidden in Samaria, and brought him to Jehu, and when they had killed him, they buried him, because, said they, he is the son of Jehoshaphat, who sought YHWH with all his heart. And there is none of the house of Ahaziah to retain power for the kingdom. But when Athaliah the mother of Ahaziah saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal offspring of the house of Judah. But Jehoshabeath, the daughter of the king, took Joash the son of Ahaziah, and stole him from among the king's sons that were killed, and put him in his nurse in a bedchamber. So Jehoshabeath, the daughter of King Jehoram, the wife of Jehoiada the priest, for she was the sister of Ahaziah, hid him from Athaliah, so that she did not kill him. And he was with them hidden in the house of Elohim for 6 years, and Athaliah reigned over the land. And in the 7th year Jehoiada strengthened himself, and took the captains of hundreds, Azariah the son of Jeroham, and Ishmael the son of Jehohanan, and Azariah the son of Obed, and Maaseiah the son of Adaiah, and Elishaphat the son of Zitri, into alliance with him. And they went around in Judah, and gathered the Levites out of all the cities of Judah, and the chief of the fathers of Israel, and they came to Jerusalem. And all the company made an alliance with the king in the house of Elohim. And he said to them, Behold, the king's son will reign, as YHWH has said of the sons of David. This is the thing that you will do: a third part of you entering on the Sabbath, of the priests and of the Levites, will be porters of the doors, and a third part will be at the king's house, and a third part at the gate of the foundation, and all the people will be in the courts of the temple of YHWH. But let none come into the temple of YHWH, except the priests, and they that minister of the Levites, they will go in, because they are sacred, but all the people will guard the watch of YHWH. And the Levites will encircle the king all around, every man with his weapons in his hand, and whoever else comes into the house, he will be put to death, but you be with the king when he comes in, and when he goes out. So the Levites and all Judah did according to all things that Jehoiada the priest had commanded, and took every man his men that were to come in on the Sabbath, with them that were to go out on the Sabbath, for Jehoiada the priest dismissed not the courses. Moreover Jehoiada the priest delivered to the captains of hundreds, spears, and bucklers, and shields, that had been King David's, that were in the house of Elohim. And he set all the people, every man having his weapon in his hand, from the right side of the temple to the left side of the temple, along by the altar and the temple, by the king all around. Then they brought out the king's son, and put on him the crown, and gave him the testimony, and made him king. And Jehoiada and his sons anointed him, and said, Elohim save the king. Now when Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and praising the king, she came to the people into the house of Yhwh, and she looked, and behold, the king stood at his pillar at the entering in, and the princes and the trumpets by the king, and all the people of the land rejoiced, and sounded with trumpets, also the singers with instruments of music, and such as taught to sing praise. Then Athaliah tore her clothes and said, Treason, treason. Then Jehoiada the priest brought out the captains of hundreds that were set over the host, and said to them, Have her out of the ranges, and whoever follows her, let him be killed with the sword. Because the priest said, Kill her not in the temple of Yhwh. So they laid hands on her, and when she was come to the entering of the horse gate by the king's house, they killed her there. And Jehoiada made an alliance between him and between all the people, and between the king, that they should be Yhwh's people. Then all the people went to the house of Baal, and broke it down and broke his altars and his images in pieces, and killed Mattan the priest of Baal before the altars. Also Jehoiada appointed the offices of the house of Yhwh by the hand of the priests the Levites, who David had distributed in the temple of Yhwh, to offer the whole burnt offerings of Yhwh, as it is written in the Torah of Moses, with rejoicing and with singing, as it was ordained by David. And he set the porters at the gates of the house of Yhwh so that none that were unclean in anything should enter in. And he took the captains of hundreds, and the nobles, and the governors of the people, and all the people of the land, and brought down the king from the temple of Yhwh. And they came through the upper gate into the king's house, and set the king on the throne of the kingdom. And all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet, after that they had killed Athaliah with the sword. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Zebiah of Beersheba. And Joash did what was right in the sight of Yhwh all the days of Jehoiada the priest. And Jehoiada took for him 2 wives, and he gendered sons and daughters. And it came to pass after this, that Joash was minded to repair the temple of Yhwh. And he gathered together the priests and the Levites, and said to them, Go out to the cities of Judah and gather of all Israel money to repair the house of your Elohim from year to year, and see that you hurry in this matter. But the Levites hurried it not. Then the king called for Jehoiada the chief and said to him, Why have you not required of the Levites to bring in out of Judah and out of Jerusalem the collection, according to the commandment of Moses the slave of Yhwh, and of the company of Israel, for the tabernacle of testimony? Because the sons of Athaliah, that wicked woman, had broken up the house of Elohim, and also all the sacred things of the temple of Yhwh did they bestow upon Baalim. And at the king's commandment they made a chest, and set it outside at the gate of the temple of Yhwh. And they made a proclamation throughout Judah and Jerusalem, to bring in to Yhwh the collection that Moses the slave of Elohim laid upon Israel in the uninhabited land. And all the princes and all the people rejoiced, and brought in, and cast into the chest, until they had finished. And it came to pass, at the time one brings in the chest for the inspection of the king by the hand of the Levites, and at their seeing that the money is abundant, that a scribe of the king has come in, and an officer of the head priest, and they empty the chest, and take it up and turn it back to its place. So they have done day by day, and gathered money in abundance. And the king and Jehoiada gave it to such as did the work of the service of the house of Yhwh, and hired masons and carpenters to repair the house of Yhwh, and also such as were craftsmen in iron and bronze to restore to strength the house of Yhwh. So the workmen repaired, and the work was restored by them, and they set the house of Elohim in its state, measurements, and strengthened it. And when they had finished it, they brought the rest of the money before the king and Jehoiada, where were fashioned vessels for the temple of Yhwh, even vessels to minister, and to offer, and spoons, and vessels of gold and silver. And they offered whole burnt offerings in the temple of Yhwh continually all the days of Jehoiada. But Jehoiada grew old, and was full of days when he died, 130 years old he was when he died. And they buried him in the city of David among the kings, because he had done good in Israel, both toward Elohim, and toward his house. Now after the death of Jehoiada came the princes of Judah, and paid homage to the king. Then the king listened to them. And they left the temple of Yhwh Elohim of their forefathers, and served groves and idols, and anger came upon Judah and Jerusalem for this their sin. Still he sent prophets to them, to bring them back to Yhwh, and they testified against them, but they would not give ear. And the spirit of Elohim came upon Zechariah the son of Jehoiada the priest that stood above the people, and said to them, This is what Elohim declares, Why alienate yourselves from the commandments of Yhwh so that you cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken Yhwh, he has also forsaken you. And they conspired against him, and stoned him with stones at the commandment of the king in the court of the temple of Yhwh. So Joash the king remembered not the kindness that Jehoiada his dad had done to him, but killed his son. And when he died, he said, Yhwh look upon it, and require it. And it came to pass at the end of the year, that the army of Syria came up against him. And they came to Judah and Jerusalem, and destroyed all the princes of the people from among the people, and sent all the plunder of them to the king of Damascus. Because the army of the Syrians came with a small company of men, and Yhwh delivered a very great army into their hand, because they had forsaken Yhwh Elohim of their forefathers. So they executed judgment against Joash. And when they were departed from him, for they left him in great diseases, his own slaves conspired against him for the blood of the sons of Jehoiada the priest, and killed him on his bed, and he died. And they buried him in the city of David, but they buried him not in the tombs of the kings. And these are they that conspired against him, Zabad the son of Shimeath an Ammonitess, and Jehozabad the son of Shimrith a Moabitess. Now concerning his sons, and the greatness of the burdens laid upon him, and the repairing of the house of Elohim, note, they are written in the story of the Book of Kings. And Amaziah his son reigned in his place. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Jehoaddan of Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the sight of Yhwh, but not with a whole heart. Now it came to pass, when the kingdom was established to him, that he killed his slaves that had killed the king his dad. But he did not kill their children, but did as it is written in the Torah in the book of Moses, where Yhwh commanded saying, the fathers will not die for the children, neither will the children die for the fathers, but every man will die for his own sin. Moreover Amaziah gathered Judah together, and made them captains over thousands, and captains over hundreds, according to the houses of their forefathers, throughout all Judah and Benjamin. And he numbered them from 20 years old and above, and found of them 300,000 choice men, able to go out to war, that could handle spear and shield. He hired also 100,000 mighty men of valor out of Israel for 100 talents, 3¾ tons, of silver. But there came a man of Elohim to him saying, O king, let not the army of Israel go with you, because Yhwh is not with Israel, all the children of Ephraim. But if you will go, do it, be strong for the battle, Elohim will make you fall before the enemy, because Elohim has power to help, and to cast down. But Amaziah replied to the man of Elohim, But what will we do for the 100 talents that I have given to the army of Israel? And the man of Elohim answered, Yhwh is able to give you much more than this. Then Amaziah separated them, the army that was come to him out of Ephraim, to go back home, therefore their anger was greatly kindled against Judah, and they returned home in great anger. And Amaziah strengthened himself, and led out his people, and went to the valley of Salt, and struck of the children of Seir 10,000. And 10,000 alive have the sons of Judah taken captive, and they brought them to the top of the rock, and cast them from the top of the rock, and all of them have been broken in pieces. But the soldiers of the army that Amaziah sent back, that they should not go with him to battle, fell upon the cities of Judah, from Samaria even to Beth-oron, and struck 3,000 of them, and took much plunder. Now it came to pass, after that Amaziah had come from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the Elohim of the children of Seir, and set them up to be as Elohim, and bowed down himself before them, and burnt incense to them. Therefore the anger of Yhwh burned against Amaziah, and he sent to him a prophet that said to him, Why have you inquired after the Elohim of the people that could not deliver their own people out of your hand? And it came to pass, as he talked with him, that the king replied to him, Are you a sign of the king's counsel? Desist, why should you be killed? Then the prophet desisted and said, I know that Elohim has determined to destroy you, because you have done this, and have not listened to my counsel. Then Amaziah king of Judah took advice, and sent to Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, the son of Jehu, king of Israel saying, Come, let us see one another in the face. Then Joash king of Israel sent to Amaziah king of Judah saying, The thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon saying, Give your daughter to my son to wife. And there passed by a wild animal that was in Lebanon, and trampled down the thistle. You say, Lo, you have beaten the Edomites, and your heart lifts you up to boast, stay now at home, why should you meddle to your own hurt, that you should fall, even you and Judah with you? But Amaziah would not hear, because it came of Elohim, that he might deliver them into the hand of their enemies, because they inquired after the Elohim of Edom. So Joash the king of Israel went up, and they saw one another in the face, both he and Amaziah king of Judah, at Bethshemesh, that belongs to Judah. And Judah was put to the worse before Israel, and they fled every man to his tent. And Joash the king of Israel took Amaziah king of Judah, the son of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, at Bethshemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate, 400 cubits, 600 feet. And he took all the gold and the silver, and all the vessels that were found in the temple of Elohim with Obededom, and the treasures of the king's house, the hostages also, and returned to Samaria. And Amaziah the son of Joash king of Judah lived after the death of Joash son of Jehoahaz king of Israel 15 years. Now the rest of the acts of Amaziah, first and last, note, are they not written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel? Now after the time that Amaziah did turn away from following Yhwh, they made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish, but they sent to Lachish after him, and killed him there. And they brought him upon horses, and buried him with his forefathers in the city of Judah, city of David. Then all the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king in the room of his dad Amaziah. He built Eloth, and restored it to Judah, after that the king slept with his forefathers. Uzziah was 16 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Jechaliah of Jerusalem. And he did what was right in the sight of Yhwh, according to all that his dad Amaziah did. And he inquired of Elohim in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of Elohim, and as long as he inquired of Yhwh, Elohim made him to prosper. And he went out and warred against the Philistines, and broke down the wall of Gath, and the wall of Jabneh, and the wall of Ashdod, and built cities around Ashdod, and among the Philistines. And Elohim helped him against the Philistines, and against the Arabians that lived in Gerbal, and the Meunims. And the Ammonites gave gifts to Uzziah, and his name spread abroad even to the entering in of Egypt, because he strengthened himself exceedingly. Moreover Uzziah built towers in Jerusalem at the corner gate, and at the valley gate, and by the angle, and fortified them. Also he built towers in the desert, and excavated many wells, because he had much cattle, both in the low country, and in the plains, farmers also, and vine dressers in the mountains, and in Carmel, for he loved farming. Moreover Uzziah had an army of fighting men, that went out to war by bands, according to the number of their account by the hand of Jael the scribe and Maaseiah the ruler, under the hand of Hananiah, one of the king's captains. The whole number of the chief of the fathers of the mighty men of valor were 2,600. And under their hand was an army of 307,500, that made war with mighty power, to help the king against the enemy. And Uzziah prepared for them throughout all the army, shields, spears, helmets, javelins, bows, and slings to cast stones. And he made in Jerusalem engines, invented by skillful men, to be on the towers and upon the bulwarks, to shoot arrows and great stones withal. And his name spread far abroad, because he was marvelously helped until he was strong. But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction, because he transgressed against Yhwh Elohim, and went into the temple of Yhwh to burn incense upon the altar of incense. And Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of Yhwh, that were valiant men, and they withstood Uzziah the king, and said to him, It pertains not to you, Uzziah, to burn incense to Yhwh, but to the priests the sons of Aaron, that are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, because you have trespassed, neither will it be for your honor from Yhwh Elohim. Then Uzziah was angry, and had a censer in his hand to burn incense. And while he was angry with the priests, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priests in the temple of Yhwh, from beside the incense altar. And Azariah the chief priest, and all the priests, looked upon him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead, and they thrust him out from there. Yes, he himself hurried also to go out, because Yhwh had struck him. And Uzziah the king was a leper to the day of his death, and lived in a separate house, being a leper, because he was cut off from the temple of Yhwh, and Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. Now the rest of the acts of Uzziah, first and last, did Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, write. So Uzziah slept with his forefathers, and they buried him with his forefathers in the field of the burial that belonged to the kings, because they said, He is a leper, and Jotham his son reigned in his place. Jotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Jerusha, the daughter of Zadok. And he did what was right in the sight of Yhwh, according to all that his father Uzziah did, but he entered not into the temple of Yhwh. And the people continued in their corrupt practices. He rebuilt the upper gate of the house of Yhwh, and on the wall of Ophel he has built abundantly. Moreover he built cities in the mountains of Judah, and in the forests he built fortresses and towers. He fought also with the king of the Ammonites, and prevailed against them. And the children of Ammon gave him the same year 100 talents, 3¾ tons, of silver, and 10,000 measures, 62,000 bushels, of wheat, and 10,000 of barley. So much did the children of Ammon pay to him, both the second year, and the third. So Jotham became mighty, because he prepared his ways before Yhwh Elohim. Now the rest of the acts of Jotham, and all his wars, and his ways, note, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 16 years in Jerusalem. And Jotham slept with his forefathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and Ahaz his son reigned in his place. Ahaz was 20 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Jerusalem, but he did not what was right in the sight of Yhwh, like David his ancestor, because he walked in the ways of the kings of Israel, and made also cast metal images for Baalim. Moreover he burnt incense in the valley of the son of Hinnom, and burnt his children in the fire, after the abominations of the nations who Yhwh had cast out before the children of Israel. He sacrificed also and burnt incense in the high places, cultic platforms, and on the hills, and under every green tree. Therefore Yhwh Elohim delivered him into the hand of the king of Syria, and they struck him, and carried away a great multitude of them captives, and brought them to Damascus. And he was also delivered into the hand of the king of Israel, who struck him with a great slaughter. For Pekah the son of Remaliah killed in Judah 120,000 in one day that were all valiant men, because they had forsaken Yhwh Elohim of their forefathers. And Zitri, a mighty man of Ephraim, killed Maaseiah the king's son, and Azrikam the governor of the house, and Elkanah that was next to the king. And the children of Israel carried away captive of their kinsmen 200,000, women, sons, and daughters, and took also away much plunder from them, and brought the booty to Samaria. But a prophet of Yhwh was there, whose name was Oded, and he went out before the army that came to Samaria, and said to them, Behold, because Yhwh Elohim of your forefathers was angry with Judah, he has delivered them into your hand, and you have killed them in a rage that reaches up to the cosmos. And now you purpose to keep unto the children of Judah and Jerusalem for male and female slaves to you, but are there not with you, even with you, sins against Yhwh Elohim? Now hear me therefore, and return the captives back that you have taken captive of your kinsmen, for the fierce anger of Yhwh is upon you. Then certain of the heads of the children of Ephraim, Azariah the son of Johanan, Berechiah the son of Meshillemoth, and Jehizkiah the son of Shallum, and Amasa the son of Hadlai, stood up against them that came from the war, and said to them, You will not bring in the captives here, because guilt against Yhwh is already on us. Are you thinking to add to our sin and to our guilt? For abundant is the guilt we have, and the fierceness of anger on Israel. So the armed men left the captives and the booty before the princes and all the company. And the men who have been expressed by name rose and took hold on the captives, and all their naked ones they have clothed from the booty, yes, they clothed them, and put shoes on them, and caused them to eat and drink, and anointed them, and lead them on donkeys, even every feeble one, and brought them to Jericho, the city of palms, near their kinsmen, and turned back to Samaria. At that time did King Ahaz send to the kings of Assyria to help him. Because again the Edomites had come and struck Judah, and carried away captives. The Philistines also had invaded the cities of the low country, and of the south of Judah, and had captured Bethshemesh, Ajalon, Gederoth, and Shacho with its villages, and Timnah with its villages, Gimzo also and its villages, and they lived there. Because Yhwh brought Judah low because of Ahaz king of Israel, for he made Judah naked and transgressed greatly against Yhwh. And Tilgath-Pilneser king of Assyria came to him and distressed him, but strengthened him not. Because Ahaz took away a portion out of the house of Yhwh, and out of the house of the king, and of the princes, and gave it to the king of Assyria, but he did not help him. And in the time of his distress did he trespass still more against Yhwh, this king Ahaz. Because he sacrificed to the Elohim of Damascus, which struck him, and he said, Because the Elohim of the kings of Syria helped them, therefore I will sacrifice to them so that they may help me. But they were the ruin of him, and of all Israel. Then Ahaz gathered together the vessels of the temple of Elohim, and cut in pieces the vessels of the temple of Elohim, and shut up the doors of the temple of Yhwh, and he made himself altars in every corner of Jerusalem. And in every several city of Judah he made high places, cultic platforms, to burn incense to other Elohim, and provoke to anger Yhwh Elohim of his forefathers. Now the rest of his acts and of all his ways, first and last, note, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Ahaz slept with his forefathers, and they buried him in the city, even in Jerusalem, but they brought him not into the tombs of the kings of Israel, and Hezekiah his son reigned in his place. Hezekiah began to reign when he was 25 years old, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. And his mother's name was Abiah, the daughter of Zechariah. And he did what was right in the sight of Yhwh, according to all that David his ancestor had done. He in the first year of his reign, on the first month, opened the doors of the temple of Yhwh, and repaired them. And he brought in the priests and the Levites, and gathered them together into the east street, and said to them, Hear me, you Levites, consecrate now yourselves and consecrate the temple of Yhwh Elohim of your forefathers, and carry out the impure thing out of the holy place. Because our fathers have trespassed, and done what was bad in the eyes of Yhwh Elohim, and have forsaken him and have turned away their faces from the dwelling place of Yhwh, and turned their backs. Also they have shut up the doors of the porch, and put out the lamps, and have not burnt incense nor offered burnt offerings in the holy place, unto the Elohim of Israel. Therefore the anger of Yhwh was upon Judah and Jerusalem, and he has delivered them to trouble, horror and hissing, as you see with your eyes. For lo, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons and our daughters and our wives are in captivity for this. Now it is in my heart to make a covenant with Yhwh Elohim of Israel so that his fierce anger may turn away from us. My sons, be not now negligent, because Yhwh has chosen you to stand before him, to serve him, and that you should minister to him and burn incense. Then the Levites arose, Mahath the son of Amasai, and Joel the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites, and of the sons of Merari, Kish the son of Abdi, and Azariah the son of Jehalalel, and of the Gershonites, Joah the son of Zimmah, and Eden the son of Joah, and of the sons of Elizaphan, Shimri, and Jael, and of the sons of Asaph, Zechariah, and Mattaniah, and of the sons of Haman, Yehiel, and Shimei, and of the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah, and Uziel. And they gathered their kinsmen, and consecrated themselves, and came according to the commandment of the king, by the words of Yhwh, to cleanse the temple of Yhwh. And the priests went into the inner part of the temple of Yhwh, to cleanse it, and brought out all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of Yhwh into the court of the house of Yhwh. And the Levites took it, to carry it out abroad into the Wadi of Kidron. Now they began on the first day of the first month to consecrate, and on the 8th day of the month they came to the porch of Yhwh. So they consecrated the temple of Yhwh in 8 days, and on the 16th day of the first month they made an end. Then they went in to Hezekiah the king and said, We have cleansed all the temple of Yhwh, and the altar of whole burnt offering, with all its vessels, and the showbread table, with all its vessels. Moreover all the vessels that King Ahaz in his reign did cast away in his transgression, have we fixed and consecrated, and behold, they are before the altar of Yhwh. Then Hezekiah the king rose early, and gathered the rulers of the city, and went up to the temple of Yhwh. And they brought 7 young bulls, 7 rams, 7 lambs, and 7 he-goats, for a sin offering for the kingdom, and for the sanctuary, and for Judah. And he commanded the priests the sons of Aaron to offer them on the altar of Yhwh. So they killed the young bulls, and the priests received the blood, and sprinkled it on the altar. Likewise, when they had killed the rams, they sprinkled the blood upon the altar. They killed also the lambs, and they sprinkled the blood upon the altar. And they brought out the he-goats for the sin offering before the king and the company, and they laid their hands on them, and the priests killed them, and made a sin offering with their blood upon the altar, to make a covering for all Israel, because the king commanded that the whole burnt offering and the sin offering should be made for all Israel. And he set the Levites in the temple of Yhwh with cymbals, with bagpipes, skin bags, and with lyres, according to the commandment of David, and of Gad the king's seer, and Nathan the prophet, for so was the commandment of Yhwh by his prophets. And the Levites stood with the instruments of David, and the priests with the trumpets. And Hezekiah commanded to offer the whole burnt offering upon the altar. And when the whole burnt offering began, the song of Yhwh began also with the trumpets, and with the instruments assigned by David king of Israel. And all the company worshipped, and the singers sang, and the trumpeter sounded, and all this continued until the whole burnt offering was consumed. And when they had made an end of offering, the king and all that were present with him bowed themselves, and worshipped. Moreover Hezekiah the king and the princes commanded the Levites to sing praise to Yhwh with the words of David, and of Asaph the seer. And they sang praises with gladness, and they bowed their heads and worshipped. Then Hezekiah answered and said, Now you have consecrated yourselves to Yhwh, come near and bring sacrifices and thank offerings into the house of Yhwh. And the company brought in sacrifices and thank offerings, and as many as were of a free heart whole burnt offerings. And the number of the whole burnt offerings that the company brought, was 70 young bulls, 100 rams, and 200 lambs, all these were for a whole burnt offering to Yhwh. And the consecrated things were 600 oxen and 3,000 sheep. But the priests were too few, so that they could not flay all the burnt offerings. Therefore their brethren the Levites did help them until the work was ended, and until the other priests had consecrated themselves. Because the Levites were more upright in heart to consecrate themselves than the priests. And also the whole burnt offerings were in abundance, with the fat of the peace offerings, and the drink offerings for every burnt offering. So the service of the temple of YHWH was set in order. And rejoiced did Hezekiah and all the people, because Elohim gave preparation to the people, for the thing had been sudden. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh so that they should come to the temple of YHWH at Jerusalem, to observe the Passover to YHWH Elohim of Israel. Because the king had taken counsel, and his princes, and all the company in Jerusalem, to observe the Passover in the 2nd month. Because they could not observe it at that time, because the priests had not consecrated themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and all the company. So they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan, that they should come to observe the Passover to YHWH Elohim of Israel at Jerusalem, for not for a long time had they done as it is written. So the posts went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel and Judah, and according to the commandment of the king saying, You children of Israel, turn back to YHWH Elohim of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remnant of you, that are escaped out of the hand of the kings of Assyria. And be not like your forefathers, and like your kinsmen that trespassed against YHWH Elohim of their forefathers, who therefore gave them up to desolation, as you see. Now be not stiff-necked, as your forefathers were, but yield yourselves to YHWH, and enter into his sanctuary that he has consecrated for the ages, and serve YHWH Elohim so that the fierceness of his anger may turn away from you. Because if you turn back to YHWH, your kinsmen and your children will find compassion before them that lead them captive, so that they will return to this land. Because YHWH Elohim is gracious and compassionate, and will not turn away his face from you, if you return to him. So the posts passed from city to city through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh even to Zebulun, but they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Nevertheless individuals of Asher and Manasseh and of Zebulun humbled themselves, and came to Jerusalem. Also in Judah the hand of Elohim was to give them one heart to institute the commandment of the king and of the princes, by the word of YHWH. And there assembled at Jerusalem many people to observe the festival of unleavened bread in the 2nd month, a very great company. And they arose and took away the altars that were in Jerusalem and all the altars for incense they removed, and cast them into the wadi of Kidron. Then they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the 2nd month, and the priests and the Levites were ashamed and consecrated themselves, and brought in the whole burnt offerings into the temple of YHWH. And they stood in their place after their custom, according to the Torah of Moses the man of Elohim. The priests sprinkled the blood, which they received of the hand of the Levites. Because there were many in the company that were not consecrated, therefore the Levites had the charge of the killing of the Passovers for everyone that was not clean, to consecrate them to YHWH. Because a multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, still they did eat the Passover otherwise than it is written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, The good YHWH pardon everyone that prepares his heart to inquire of Elohim, YHWH Elohim of his forefathers, though he is not cleansed according to the purification of the sanctuary. And YHWH listened to Hezekiah, and healed the people. And the children of Israel that were present at Jerusalem observed the festival of unleavened bread 7 days with great gladness, and the Levites and the priests praised YHWH day by day, singing with loud instruments to YHWH. Then Hezekiah spoke comfortably to all the Levites that taught the good knowledge of YHWH, and they did eat throughout the festival 7 days, offering peace offerings, and making confession to YHWH Elohim of their forefathers. And the whole assembly took counsel to observe another 7 days, and they observed another 7 days with gladness. Because Hezekiah king of Judah did give to the company 1,000 young bulls and 7,000 sheep, and the princes gave to the company 1,000 young bulls and 10,000 sheep, and a great number of priests consecrated themselves. And all the company of Judah, with the priests and the Levites, and all the company that came out of Israel, and the sojourners that came out of the land of Israel, and that lived in Judah rejoiced. So there was great joy in Jerusalem, because since the time of Solomon the son of David king of Israel there was not the like in Jerusalem. Then the priests the Levites arose and blessed the people, and their voice was heard, and their prayer came up to his holy dwelling place, even into the cosmos. Now when all this was finished, all Israel that were present went out to the cities of Judah, and broke the images in pieces, and cut down the groves, and threw down the high places, cultic platforms. And the altars out of all Judah and Benjamin, in Ephraim also and Manasseh, until they had utterly destroyed them all. Then all the children of Israel returned, every man to his possession, into their own cities. Then Hezekiah appointed the courses of the priests and the Levites after their courses, every man according to his service, the priests and Levites for whole burnt offerings and for peace offerings, to minister, and to give thanks, and to praise in the gates of the camp of YHWH. He appointed also the king's portion of his property for the whole burnt offerings, for the morning and evening whole burnt offerings, and the burnt offerings for the Sabbaths, and for the new moons, and for the set festivals, as it is written in the Torah of YHWH. Moreover, he commanded the people that lived in Jerusalem to give the portion of the priests and the Levites so that they might be encouraged in the Torah of YHWH. And as soon as the commandment came abroad, the children of Israel brought in abundance the first fruits of corn, wine, oil, and honey, and of all the increase of the field, and the tithe of all things brought they in abundantly. And concerning the children of Israel and Judah, that lived in the cities of Judah, they also brought in the tithe of oxen and sheep, and the tithe of sacred things that were consecrated to YHWH Elohim, and laid them in piles. In the 3rd month they began to pile up the heaps, and finished them in the 7th month. And when Hezekiah and the princes came and saw the piles, they blessed YHWH, and his people Israel. Then Hezekiah questioned with the priests and the Levites concerning the piles. And Azariah the chief priest of the house of Zadok answered him and said, Since the people began to bring the offerings into the temple of YHWH, we have had enough to eat, and have plenty left over, because YHWH has blessed his people, and what is left is this great store. Then Hezekiah commanded to prepare chambers in the house of YHWH, and they prepared them, and brought in the offerings and the tithes and the dedicated things faithfully, over which Kokaniah the Levite was ruler, and Shimei his brother was the next. And Yehiel, Azaziah, Nahath, Asahel, Jeremoth, Jozabad, Eliel, Ismachiah, Mahath, and Benaiah, were overseers under the hand of Kokaniah and Shimei his brother, at the commandment of Hezekiah the king, and Azariah the ruler of the temple of Elohim. And Kor the son of Imnah the Levite, the porter toward the east, was over the freewill offerings of Elohim, to distribute the oblations of YHWH, and the most holy things. And next to him were Eden, Miniamin, Jeshua, Shemaiah, Amariah, and Shechaniah, in the cities of the priests, in their set office, to give to their kinsmen by courses, as well to the great as to the small, beside their genealogy of males, from 3 years old and upward, even to everyone that enters into the temple of YHWH, his daily portion for their service and their charges according to their courses, both to the genealogy of the priests by the house of their fathers, and the Levites from 20 years old and upward, in their charges by their courses, and to the genealogy of all their little ones, their wives, and their sons, and their daughters, through all the company, because in their set office they consecrated themselves in holiness, also of the sons of Aaron the priests, that were in the fields of the suburbs of their cities, in every several city, the men that were expressed by name, to give portions to all the males among the priests, and to all that were reckoned by genealogies among the Levites. And so did Hezekiah throughout all Judah, and accomplished what was good and right and truth before YHWH Elohim. And in every work that he began in the service of the temple of Elohim, and in the Torah, and in the commandments, to inquire of Elohim, he did it with all his heart and prospered. After these things, and its establishment, Sennacherib king of Assyria came, and entered into Judah and camped against the fenced cities, and thought to win them for himself. And when Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib had come, and that he was purposed to fight against Jerusalem, he took counsel with his princes and his mighty men to stop the waters of the fountains that were outside the city, and they did help him. So there was gathered many people together, who stopped all the fountains, and the wadi that ran through the middle of the land, saying, Why should the kings of Assyria come, and find much water? Also he strengthened himself, and built up all the wall that was broken, and raised it up to the towers, and another wall outside, and repaired Millo in the city of David, and made darts and shields in abundance. And he set captains of war over the people, and gathered them together to him in the street of the gate of the city, and spoke comfortably to them, saying, Be strong and courageous, be not afraid or dismayed for the king of Assyria, nor for the entire multitude that is with him, because there is more with us than with him. With him is an arm of flesh, but with us is YHWH our Elohim to help us, and to fight our battles. And the people rested themselves on the words of Hezekiah king of Judah. After this did Sennacherib king of Assyria send his slaves to Jerusalem, but he himself laid siege against Lachish, and all his power with him, to Hezekiah king of Judah, and to all Judah that were at Jerusalem, saying, So declares Sennacherib king of Assyria, Why do you trust, that you abide in the siege in Jerusalem? Does not Hezekiah persuade you to give over yourselves to die by famine and by thirst, saying, YHWH our Elohim will deliver us out of the hand of the king of Assyria? Has not the same Hezekiah taken away his high places and his altars, and commanded Judah and Jerusalem, saying, you will worship before one altar, and burn incense upon it? Do you not know what I and my ancestors have done to all the people of other lands? Were the Elohim of the nations of those lands in any way able to deliver their lands out of my hand? Who was there among all the Elohim of those nations that my ancestors utterly destroyed, that could deliver his people out of my hand, that your Elohim should be able to deliver you out of my hand? Now therefore let not Hezekiah deceive you or persuade you on this matter, neither believe in him still. Because no Elohim of any nation or kingdom was able to deliver his people out of my hand, and out of the hand of my ancestors, how much less will your Elohim deliver you out of my hand? Then his slave spoke still more against YHWH Elohim, and against his slave Hezekiah. He wrote also letters to blaspheme YHWH Elohim of Israel, and to speak against him saying, As the Elohim of the nations of other lands have not delivered their people out of my hand, so will not the Elohim of Hezekiah deliver his people out of my hand. Then they cried with a loud voice in the Jews' language to the people of Jerusalem that were on the wall, to frighten them and to trouble them, that they might capture the city. And they spoke against the Elohim of Jerusalem, as against the Elohim of the people of the land, that were the work of the hands of man. And for this cause Hezekiah the king, and the prophet Isaiah the son of Amoz, prayed and cried to the cosmos. And YHWH sent an angel that cut off all the mighty men of valor, and the leaders and captains in the camp of the king of Assyria. So he returned with shame of face to his own land. And when he was come into the house of his Elohim, they that came forth of his own bowels killed him there with the sword. So YHWH saved Hezekiah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib the king of Assyria, and from the hand of all others, and gave them rest on every side. And many brought gifts to YHWH to Jerusalem, and presents to Hezekiah king of Judah, so that he was magnified in the sight of all nations from that time on. In those days Hezekiah became sick to the death, and prayed to YHWH, and he spoke to him, and he gave him a sign. And Hezekiah had not returned according to the deed done to him, because his heart had been lofty, and there was anger upon him and on Judah and Jerusalem. Notwithstanding Hezekiah humbled himself for the pride of his heart, both he and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, so that the anger of YHWH came not upon them in the days of Hezekiah. And Hezekiah had exceedingly much riches and honor, and he made himself storehouses for silver, gold, precious stones, spices, shields, and for all kinds of desirable jewels, storehouses also for the increase of corn, wine, oil, and stalls for all kinds of animals, and stalls for flocks. Moreover he provided him cities and possessions of flocks and herds in abundance, because Elohim had given him very many possessions. This same Hezekiah also stopped the upper watercourse of Gihon, and brought it straight down to the west side of the city of David. And Hezekiah prospered in all his works. But in the business of the ambassadors of the princes of Babylon, who sent to him to investigate of the wonders that were done in the land, Elohim left him, to test him so that he might know all that was in his heart. Now the rest of the acts of Hezekiah, and his goodness, note, they are written in the vision of Isaiah the prophet, the son of Amoz, and in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Hezekiah slept with his forefathers, and they buried him in the chief of the tombs of the sons of David, and all Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem did him honor at his death. And Manasseh his son reigned in his place. Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem, but did what was bad in the sight of YHWH, like the abominations of the nations who YHWH had cast out before the children of Israel. Because he rebuilt again the high places, cultic platforms, that Hezekiah his dad had broken down, and he reared up altars for Baalim, and made groves, and worshipped all the host of the cosmos, and served them. Also he built altars in the house of YHWH, whereof YHWH had said, In Jerusalem will my name be for the ages. And he built altars for all the host of the cosmos in the 2 courts of the house of YHWH. And he caused his children to pass through the fire in the valley of the son of Hinnom. Also he observed times, and used enchantments, and used witchcraft, and dealt with necromancers, and with soothsayers. He accomplished much evil in the sight of YHWH, to provoke him to anger. And he set a carved image, the idol that he had fashioned, in the temple of Elohim, of which Elohim had said to David and to Solomon his son, In this temple, and in Jerusalem that I have chosen before all the tribes of Israel, I will put my name there for the ages, neither will I any more remove the foot of Israel from out of the land that I have appointed for your forefathers, so that they will take heed to do all that I have commanded them, according to the whole Torah and the statutes and the ordinances by the hand of Moses. So Manasseh made Judah and the inhabitants of Jerusalem to err and to do worse than the nations who YHWH had destroyed before the children of Israel. And YHWH spoke to Manasseh and to his people, but they would not listen. Therefore YHWH brought upon them the captains of the army of the king of Assyria that took Manasseh among the thorns, and bound him with fetters, and carried him to Babylon. And when he was in affliction, he besought YHWH his Elohim, and humbled himself greatly before the Elohim of his forefathers, and prayed to him, and he was entreated of him, and heard his supplication, and brought him back to Jerusalem into his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that YHWH was Elohim. And after this he built an outer wall to the city of David, on the west of Gihon, in the valley, and at the entering in at the fish gate, and it had gone around to the tower, and he made it exceedingly high, and he put heads of the forces in all the cities of the bulwarks in Judah. And he removed the foreign Elohim, and the idol out of the temple of YHWH, and all the altars that he had built in the mount of the house of YHWH, and in Jerusalem, and cast them out of the city. And he repaired the altar of YHWH, and sacrificed on their peace offerings and thank offerings, and commanded Judah to serve YHWH Elohim of Israel. Nevertheless the people did sacrifice still in the high places, worship houses, still to YHWH their Elohim only. Now the rest of the acts of Manasseh, and his prayer to his Elohim, and the words of the seers that spoke to him in the name of YHWH Elohim of Israel, note, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel. His prayer also, and how Elohim was entreated of him, and all his sin, and his trespass, and the places in which he built high places, and set up groves and graven images, before he was humbled, note, they are written among the sayings of the seers. So Manasseh slept with his forefathers, and they buried him in his own house, and Amon his son reigned in his place. Amon was 22 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. But he did what was evil in the sight of YHWH, as did Manasseh his dad, because Amon sacrificed to all the carved images that Manasseh his dad had fashioned, and served them, and humbled not himself before YHWH, as Manasseh his dad had humbled himself, but Amon trespassed more and more. And his slaves conspired against him, and killed him in his own house. But the people of the land killed all them that had conspired against King Amon, and the people of the land made Josiah his son king in his place. Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 31 years. And he did what was right in the sight of YHWH, and walked in the ways of David his forefather, and declined neither to the right hand, nor to the left. Because in the 8th year of his reign, while he was still young, he began to inquire after the Elohim of David his forefather. And in the 12th year he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places, worship houses, and the groves, and the carved images, and the cast metal images. And they broke down the altars of Baalim in his presence, and the images, which were on high above them, he cut down. And the groves, and the carved images, and the molten images, he broke in pieces, and made dust of them and sprinkled it upon the graves of them that had sacrificed to them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. And so he did in the cities of Manasseh, Ephraim, and Simeon, even to Naphtali, and all around with their axes. And when he had broken down the altars and the groves, and had beaten the graven images into powder, and cut down all the idols throughout all the land of Israel, he returned to Jerusalem. Now in the 18th year of his reign, when he had purged the land, and the house, he sent Shaphan the son of Azaliah, and Maaseiah the governor of the city, and Joah the son of Joahaz the recorder, to repair the house of YHWH Elohim. And when they came to Hilkiah the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of Elohim, that the Levites that guarded the doors had gathered, from the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and from all the remnant of Israel, and from all Judah and Benjamin, and they returned to Jerusalem. And they put it in the hand of the workmen that had the oversight of the house of YHWH, and they gave it to the workmen that worked in the house of YHWH, to repair and strengthen the temple, even to the artificers and builders they gave it, to buy cut stone and timber for couplings, and to floor the houses that the kings of Judah had destroyed. And the men are working faithfully in the business, and over them are appointed Jahath and Obadiah, the Levites, of the sons of Merari, and Zechariah and Meshullam, of the sons of the Kohathite, to overlook, and of the Levites, everyone understanding about instruments of song. Also they were over the bearers of burdens, and were overseers of all that accomplished the work in any type of service, and of the Levites there were scribes, officers, and porters. And when they brought out the money that was brought into the house of YHWH, Hilkiah the priest found a scroll of the Torah of YHWH given by Moses. And Hilkiah answered and said to Shaphan the scribe, I have found the scroll of the Torah in the house of YHWH. And Hilkiah delivered the scroll to Shaphan. And Shaphan carried the scroll to the king, and brought the king word back again saying, All that was committed to your slaves, they do. And they have gathered together the money that was found in the house of YHWH, and have delivered it into the hands of the overseers, and into the hands of the workmen. Then Shaphan the scribe told the king saying, Hilkiah the priest has given me a scroll. And Shaphan read it before the king. And it came to pass, when the king had heard the words of the Torah, that he tore his clothes. And the king commanded Hilkiah, and Ahikam the son of Shaphan, and Abdon the son of Micah, and Shaphan the scribe, and Asaiah a slave of the king saying, Go, inquire of YHWH for me, and for them that are left in Israel and in Judah, concerning the words of the scroll that is found, because great is the anger of YHWH that is poured out upon us, because our forefathers have not observed the word of YHWH, to do after all that is written in this scroll. And Hilkiah, and they that the king had appointed, went to Huldah the prophetess, the wife of Shallum the son of Tikvath, the son of Hazra, keeper of the wardrobe. Now she lived in Jerusalem in the college, and they spoke to her to that effect. And she answered them, This is what YHWH Elohim of Israel declares, Tell the man that sent you to me, this is what YHWH declares, Behold, I will bring bad upon this standing place, and upon its inhabitants, even all the curses that are written in the scroll that they have read before the king of Judah, because they have forsaken me, and have burnt incense to other Elohim, that they might provoke me to anger with all the works of their hands. Therefore my anger will be poured out upon this standing place, and will not be quenched. And as for the king of Judah, who sent you to inquire of YHWH, so will you say to him, This is what YHWH Elohim of Israel declares concerning the words that you have heard, because your heart was tender, and you did humble yourself before Elohim, when you heard his words against this standing place, and against its inhabitants, and humbled yourself before me, and did tear your clothes, and weep before me, I have even heard you also, declares YHWH. Behold, I will gather you to your forefathers, and you will be gathered to your grave in peace, neither will your eyes see all the bad that I will bring upon this standing place, and upon its inhabitants of the same. So they brought the king word back. Then the king sent and gathered together all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem. And the king went up into the temple of YHWH, and all the men of Judah, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests, Levites, and all the people, great and small. And he read in their ears all the words of the scroll of the covenant pledge that was found in the temple of YHWH. And the king stood in his place, and made a covenant before YHWH, to walk after YHWH, and to observe his commandments, and his testimonies, and his statutes, with all his heart, and with all his mind, to perform the words of the covenant pledge that are written in this scroll. And he caused all that were present in Jerusalem and Benjamin to stand to it. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem did according to the covenant of Elohim, the Elohim of their forefathers. And Josiah took away all the abominations out of all the countries that pertained to the children of Israel, and made all that were present in Israel to serve, even to serve YHWH their Elohim. And all his days they departed not from following YHWH, the Elohim of their forefathers. Moreover Josiah observed a Passover to YHWH in Jerusalem, and they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the first month. And he set the priests in their charges, and encouraged them to the service of the temple of YHWH, and said to the Levites that taught all Israel, which were sacred to YHWH, Put the holy ark in the temple that Solomon the son of David king of Israel did build. It will not be a burden upon your shoulders. Serve now YHWH your Elohim, and his people Israel, and prepare yourselves by the houses of your forefathers, after your courses, according to the writing of David king of Israel, and according to the writing of Solomon his son. And stand in the holy place according to the divisions of the families of the forefathers of your kinsmen the people, and after the division of the families of the Levites. So kill the Passover and consecrate yourselves, and prepare your kinsmen so that they may do according to the word of YHWH by the hand of Moses. And Josiah gave to the people, of the flock, lambs and kids, all for the Passover sacrifice, for all that were present, to the number of 30,000, and 3,000 young bulls, these were of the king's property. And his princes gave willingly to the people, to the priests, and to the Levites, Hilkiah and Zechariah and Jehiel, rulers of the temple of Elohim, gave to the priests for the Passover sacrifices 2,600 of the flocks, and 300 oxen. Conaniah also, and Shemaiah and Nethaneel, his kinsmen, and Hashabiah, Jael and Jozabad, chief of the Levites, gave to the Levites for Passover sacrifices 5,000 of the flocks, and 500 oxen. So the service was prepared, and the priests stood in their place, and the Levites in their courses, according to the king's commandment. And they killed the Passover, and the priests sprinkled the blood from their hands, and the Levites flayed them. And they turn aside the whole burnt offering, to put them by the divisions of the house of the forefathers of the sons of the people, to bring near to YHWH, as it is written in the book of Moses, and so to the oxen. And they roasted the Passover with fire according to the ordinance, but the other holy offerings boiled they in pots, and in cauldrons, and in pans, and divided them speedily among all the people. And afterward they made ready for themselves, and for the priests, because the priests the sons of Aaron were busied in offering of whole burnt offerings and the fat until night, therefore the Levites prepared for themselves, and for the priests the sons of Aaron. And the singers the sons of Asaph were in their place, according to the commandment of David, and Asaph, Haman, and Jeduthun the king's seer, and the porters waited at every gate, they might not depart from their service, because their kinsmen the Levites prepared for them. So all the service of YHWH was prepared the same day, to observe the Passover, and to offer whole burnt offerings upon the altar of YHWH, according to the commandment of King Josiah. And the children of Israel that were present observed the Passover at that time, and the festival of unleavened bread 7 days. And there was no Passover like that one observed in Israel from the days of Samuel the prophet, neither did all the kings of Israel observe such a Passover as Josiah observed, and the priests, and the Levites, and all Judah and Israel that were present, and the inhabitants of Jerusalem. In the 18th year of the reign of Josiah was this Passover observed. After all this, when Josiah had established the temple, Necho king of Egypt came up to fight against Carchemish by Euphrates, and Josiah went out against him. But he sent ambassadors to him saying, What have I to do with you, you king of Judah? I come not against you this day, but against the house with which I have war, because Elohim commanded me to make haste. Forbear yourself from meddling with Elohim, who is with me, so that he destroys you not. Nevertheless Josiah would not turn his face from him, but disguised himself so that he might fight with him, and listened not to the words of Necho from the mouth of Elohim, and came to fight in the valley of Megiddo. And the archers shot at King Josiah, and the king said to his slaves, Take me away, because I am extremely wounded. His slaves therefore took him out of that chariot, and put him in the second chariot that he had, and they brought him to Jerusalem, and he died, and was buried in one of the tombs of his forefathers. And all Judah and Jerusalem mourned for Josiah. And Jeremiah lamented for Josiah, and all the singing men and the singing women spoke of Josiah in their dirges to this day, and made them an ordinance in Israel, and behold, they are written in the Lamentations. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah, and his goodness, according to what was written in the law of YHWH, and his deeds, first and last, note, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah. Then the people of the land took Jehoahaz the son of Josiah, and made him king in his dad's place in Jerusalem. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. And the king of Egypt put him down at Jerusalem, and taxed of the land 100 talents, 3¾ tons, of silver, and a talent, 75 pounds, of gold. And the king of Egypt made Eliakim his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. And Necho took Jehoahaz his brother, and carried him to Egypt. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem, and he did what was bad in the sight of YHWH Elohim. Against him came up Nebuchadnezzar king of Babylon, and bound him in fetters, to carry him to Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar also carried of the vessels of the temple of YHWH to Babylon, and put them in his temple at Babylon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim, and his abominations that he did, and what was found in him, note, they are written in the book of the kings of Israel and Judah, and Jehoiakim his son reigned in his place. Jehoiakim was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 3 months and 10 days in Jerusalem, and he did what was bad in the sight of YHWH. And when the year was expired, King Nebuchadnezzar sent, and brought him to Babylon, with the precious vessels from the temple of YHWH, and made Zedekiah his brother king over Judah and Jerusalem. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. And he did what was bad in the sight of YHWH Elohim, and humbled not himself before Jeremiah the prophet speaking from the mouth of YHWH. And he also rebelled against King Nebuchadnezzar, who had made him a jur by Elohim, but he stiffened his neck, and hardened his heart from turning to YHWH Elohim of Israel. Moreover all the chief of the priests, and the people, transgressed very much after all the abominations of the nations, and defiled the temple of YHWH that he had consecrated in Jerusalem. And YHWH Elohim of their forefathers sent to them by his messengers, rising up early, and sending, because he had compassion on his people, and on his dwelling place, but they mocked the messengers of Elohim, and despised his words, and misused his prophets, until the anger of YHWH arose against his people, until there was no remedy. Therefore he brought upon them the king of the Chaldeans, who killed their young men with the sword in the house of their sanctuary, and had no compassion upon young man or maiden, old man, or him that stooped for age, he gave them all into his hand. And all the vessels of the house of Elohim, great and small, and the treasures of the temple of YHWH, and the treasures of the king, and of his princes, all these he brought to Babylon. And they burnt the house of Elohim, and broke down the wall of Jerusalem, and burnt all the palaces with fire, and destroyed all the precious vessels. And them that had escaped from the sword he carried away to Babylon, where they were slaves to him and his sons until the reign of the kingdom of Persia, to fulfill the word of Yhwh by the mouth of Jeremiah, until the land had enjoyed her Sabbaths, because as long as she lay desolate she observed Sabbath, to fulfill 70 years. Now in the first year of Cyrus king of Persia, that the word of Yhwh spoken by the mouth of Jeremiah might be accomplished, Yhwh stirred up the mind of Cyrus king of Persia so that he made a proclamation throughout all his kingdom, and put it also in writing saying, So declares Cyrus king of Persia, all the kingdoms of the land has Yhwh Elohim of the cosmos given me, and he has charged me to build him a temple in Jerusalem, that is in Judah. Who is there among you of all his people? Yhwh his Elohim be with him, and let him go up. The end of the writings.